Aita for telling my daughter that my in-laws are stupid. My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest, Emily, turned 6 last Sunday. We recently had to deal with an issue in Emily's school. Last year, a new student joined her class and started bullying her. He'd make fun of her, call her names and steal her stuff to hide it around the school. On 2 occasions, the bullying got physical. It took us a while to sort everything out, because the boy's parents were a nightmare and nothing the school did worked. Finally, they threatened to expel him if he didn't leave our daughter alone, and his family got him to stop. He hasn't bothered Emily in months, and she is doing much better. Because of how much of an ordeal this ended up being, many of our friends and family members know what happened. Most were as frustrated as we were, but my wife's stepmother, Patty, thought the whole thing was cute. Even after we told her everything the boy did, she still insisted he probably just liked Emily and didn't know how to show it. For whatever reason, she's fixated on this. Every time the subject comes up, Patty says she still thinks we're being dramatic and the boy deserves another chance. My father-in-law fluctuates between being angry at the school and agreeing the boy was probably harmless. They never spoke about this near the kids, and my wife and I don't give a shit what they think anyway, so we never worried much about this. We're throwing Emily a birthday party this Saturday. Because my FIL will be busy, we all had dinner together at a place Emily likes the day before her birthday. Near the end of the dinner, she started talking about her party, how excited she was and which of her friends were coming. My FIL asked Emily if the bully was invited. And before anyone replied, he obviously isn't, Patty added that it would be mean if she didn't invite him, because he liked her and would be very sad. Emily looked at me and my wife. I told her, don't worry honey, Grandpa and Patty are both very stupid. Don't listen to them. They looked shocked, but didn't try to argue. We had an awkward goodbye and went our separate ways. My FAL called us on Monday. He apologized for what he and Patty said, but told us he expected me to apologize as well. He said that I crossed a line by insulting him and his wife in front of his grandchildren. My wife and I have been on the same page throughout all this. But yesterday, she told me she was starting to wonder whether it wouldn't have been better to deal with this privately, especially since we don't like insulting people in front of the kids. Edit, I've brought this up in the comments, but I want to offer more context on what the bully did. It was mostly verbal. He created a few nicknames that kind of, not really, sounded like Emily's real name and our last name. She once got brown paint on her clothes during art class and he started calling her, pig. He laughed whenever she spoke in class. The teacher would always shut him down, but Emily is already a shy kid and that didn't help. They have weekly, toy days, at school, and Emily stopped bringing her toys because the boy kept stealing them or threatening to break them. He'd also take her stuff, backpack, school materials and personal items, and hide them. We managed to get all those things back, and the closest he got to damaging something she owned was a small rip in one of her stuffed animals that my wife was able to fix. And as I mentioned, the bullying got physical twice. On the first occasion, he pushed her off a swing set. She scraped her knees, but wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her hair during lunch. A teacher witnessed and said that he grabbed her head violently to do so. That got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. I don't think there's much I can say about this boy, except that he has very obvious behavioral issues that his parents refuse to manage properly. Relevant comments. Commenter. You have told Patty to knock it off and then she went and tried to ruin your kid's birthday party by asking to invite that nightmare of a child to attend. She needs to get over her fixation before she pushes your family away from your dad and her. I'm really glad we didn't do this dinner on her actual birthday. Emily was upset, but she was doing better the next day. More on the bully and his parents. Back when we were having to deal with the boy's parents, one of the excuses they used, referring to the name calling, was that all boys behaved like that around girls. I think about that a lot. Both because I know it's not true, neither of my sons are like that, nor did I act like that when I was a child, and because of how disheartening it is that people could enable that. Plus, those two were exhausting. They never denied anything their son did, but it was always either my daughter's fault, an accident, harmless, or just the way boys normally acted. Plus, and the boy isn't even in her class anymore. One of the first things the school did was move him to a different one, though it didn't work at the time. We're inviting a few kids from his class, but not many. On the school's reaction, the school actually handled everything better than we expected, but we could tell they were having trouble with it because the boy was very difficult to deal with. Transferring him to a different class didn't work, sending notes to his home didn't work, setting up meetings between us and his parents didn't work. Not even suspending him worked. We could always tell the school was trying, but nothing they did stopped him or convinced his parents to do something until they threatened to expel him. Meh. I'd say apologize because they apologized. I'm not sure how genuine their apology is, only you can gauge that right now. Pick your battles, you know. As it is, it's not a high priority, but if having to be the bigger person this once stops their comments to your daughter, it's worth it. That being said, if you want to go nuclear you could just tell them that you won't be apologizing because your comments are exactly in line with the bully's comments to your daughter and you're just expressing your affection for your in-laws in the same way since that's what they seem to think. Commenter: I'm not really interested in going nuclear, as you put it. At the same time, I don't want to give Patty the opportunity to say something like that again. I do believe my FIL was at least a little genuine, but she hasn't apologized for anything and has never seemed to feel guilty whenever she defended my daughter's bully. I think I've said this elsewhere, but if I do decide to apologize, I won't do it unless Emily gets an apology from them first. Of course, you are right to defend Emily. If calling her grandparents stupid was the best. Explaining to her that they don't know the whole story and they shouldn't comment about it would have been better. Commenter: thing is, they do know the whole story. They know about the name calling, the insults, and how difficult it was to get him to stop. They probably know more than Emily does, since we also told them about the boy's parents. NTA. Their opinions were alright as long as they kept it away from your daughter, which they hopefully did when they were alone with her, but trying to guilt her and use that dumb, bullied because of crush, mantra in front of her was when they deserved some public blowback. They don't want to be insulted in front of the grandkids by being called stupid. Then don't say stupid things like, you should invite your school bully to your birthday party. They weren't left alone with the kids at any point. My FIL did take my eldest son to the movies a couple months ago, but he's not nearly as invested in this as Patty. And my wife and I have an unspoken rule that Patty isn't allowed to be alone with our kids. Speaking of Patty, Patty's whole attitude about this has been infuriating. We've barely spoken about this boy in months, but she feels the need to bring him up every single time. Plus, she doesn't have kids. My wife and her sister don't consider her a second mom either. Update: to get it out of the way, Emily's birthday party went off without a hitch, and she had a great time with her friends. It's always bittersweet watching our little girl grow up so fast, but me and my wife enjoyed ourselves as well. We talked more about what happened over the last few days. My wife made it very clear that she didn't care that I called her father and Patty stupid and didn't think I should apologize, but was concerned about our kids thinking I was a hypocrite. We always aim to teach them to be kind and avoid insulting others, and it doesn't feel fair to hold them to standards we don't hold ourselves to. So Friday night, we sat the kids down and discussed what I'd said. We explained that I was upset at what my in-laws had done and was trying to protect Emily, but that what I said was still not nice and they shouldn't repeat it. I apologized for the language I used. Besides that, my wife and I also talked about how we'd deal with her father and Patty. I told her I wanted them to apologize to Emily, and I wouldn't say a word to them until they did. She agreed with me after the party. She texted her father the following: this is a translation. The party went well. About what happened at Emily's birthday dinner. My name will not apologize. Patty has no right to tell our daughter how she should feel about the boy who made her life hell for months, and neither do you. I'll call you tomorrow and you'll apologize to your granddaughter. If your wife wants to continue being a part of the children's lives, she will too. And if she mentions that boy again, I'll have to seriously rethink the role we're letting her have here. This isn't up for discussion. She showed me the text before sending it, but I agreed with pretty much everything. They had a short fight about it, but he agreed in the end. I offered to apologize to keep the peace and my wife told me not to. Both my FIL and Patty finally apologized to Emily on Sunday. We're not confident about Patty, but my FIL seems sincere. Either way, we've decided to loosen our ties with my wife's stepmother for a while. We're still working everything out, but we'll see her less until at least my eldest son's birthday, October. I have no doubts my FIL loves my children, but he's a very strange guy. He was overprotective of his daughters their whole youths, but frequently tells us we're dramatic when it comes to our kids. And I never had any strong feelings about Patty, but her treatment of Emily's situation has soured my image of her. On a side note, the bully found out about the party. His mother found my wife on Instagram and messaged her to complain that he wasn't invited. My wife reminded her of the day the school threatened to kick her son out. No reply as of today. I didn't know what to expect when I posted here, but I was glad to see that even those who thought I was in the wrong agreed that Emily and her well-being came first. At the end of the day, that's all I really care about. This will be my only update. Thanks everyone. Relevant comments. Glad everything worked out. As for the bully not being invited to the party but finding out, Faithful. Maybe if his parents didn't raise him to be mean to other kids, it wouldn't be an issue. His parents enabled and found excuses for everything he did up until the consequences got too severe. The one time my daughter physically defended herself and the few times my sons yelled at him to defend her were upsetting to them. They disapproved of everything the school did to protect Emily, including moving their son to a different class. I'm glad your kids stood up for Emily, sounds like they did the right thing even when the adults didn't. I guess it would be hard to watch someone call your sister a pig and not do something about it. My sons are both older than Emily and the bully, so I'm glad they didn't get physical, but I'm proud of them for defending her. I'm glad you taught your daughter that abusive peers don't like her. That kind of thinking is insane. I'm 60 and I hated hearing it when young. Both me and my wife hate it too. It was especially infuriating when we were having to deal with the bully and his parents and Patty started trying to convince us that the boy had a crush on Emily. Hearing that the kid who was tormenting my daughter on an almost daily basis was just a cute little boy who didn't know how to deal with being in love was maddening. I had a bit of a problem with you wanting to apologizing for calling Phil and Patty stupid. Because that type of thinking is stupid. Abuse is never equal to love. Not ever. So what they said was stupid. And while intelligent people will often say stupid things unintentionally, stupid people believe the stupid things they say. Your Phil and Patty are stupid. I was thinking about it and realized children would have possibly had a problem seeing the distinction. Perhaps next time you could say, Phil, Patty, that's a stupid thing to say. Everyone knows XYZ. Then later explain to children that Phil and Patty often say things that are wrong, that they don't think before they speak. Call them out on every stupid thing they say. Your kids will put 2 and 2 together and figure out that at best Phil and Patty are well-meaning, but ignorant and at worst, stupid. I think this is why I wouldn't apologize if it wasn't to keep the peace. Looking back at my first post, my biggest concern wasn't that I insulted them, it was that I did it in front of my kids. I'll try to manage this better in the future. Lastly, on the possibility of Patty being in contact with the bully's family, highly doubt it. We never gave Patty or my Phil any last names, and they're not involved with my children's school otherwise. Both of the boys' parents also have very common first names. Stories number 2. Aita for allowing my dad to give any of my late mom's jewelry to his fiancée or their daughters. My mom died when I, 26F, was 12. When I was 15 my dad gave me all her things after an overeager ex of his tried to take some of mom's stuff for herself, which resulted in me yelling at the woman and her trying to slap me for disrespecting her and dad breaking up with her. It wasn't the first time someone had shown an interest in some of it. His sister wanted a pearl pendant that belonged to mom and she even tried to steal it. Dad told me that mom wanted her things to go to me so he was respecting her wishes. After he gave it all to me I packed it up and sent it to my grandparents for safekeeping. My dad met his fiancée when I was 17. The two of us did not connect and I moved out when I turned 18, which is when they started having children. Now they have 5 together and they're due to get married in February 2026. He has 2 daughters, 7 and 6, with his fiancée and he told me recently he wanted to give the 3 of them a gift from mom's collection of jewelry. He wants his fiancée to have mom's clado ring that she got in her teens. He wants the necklace he bought mom for their wedding for the oldest of his and his fiancée's 2 daughters and a bracelet he bought mom for the younger daughter. He told me his fiancée was also in love with a watch my mom owned and he suggested I could give it to her as a wedding gift since the 2 of us have had a rough time connecting, and he feels like it would make her feel welcome. My answer to all of it was no. I didn't hesitate in saying it or beat around the bush. I was honest. My answer was no. He told me it was the right thing to do and that it shows we're all one family. I told him be that as it may he could buy them jewelry if he wanted but my mom was not their family and like he said, she wanted all of her things to go to me. His fiancée asked me what kind of daughter I'm being to her, she's 12 years older than me FFS, and what kind of sister I was being. She said all of her kids could get something of my mom's stuff and it would truly make us all feel like a family. Then she brought it back around to her and how she deserved to have the ring that my dad talked about a lot, even more than his or mom's wedding ring. I told her that was too bad for her and the ring was mine now. Just like all of it belongs to me now and she and her kids were getting none of it. My dad sent me a long text telling me for his sake he hopes I reconsider because this is breaking his heart and putting him in a difficult spot. Stories number 3. I told my boyfriend I was uncomfortable with his friend who abused his ex. He won't drop him. Am I overreacting? I and my boyfriend has this childhood friend, we'll call him Alan. They've been close since like middle school, cool, whatever. Anyway, a month ago, Alan's girlfriend dumped him because he was cheating. Not just texting other girls, but also guys, had Grindr and like 3 other apps, literally scheduling hookups behind her back. Super grimy stuff. When she found out and ended things, rightfully, he apparently lost it. He begged her to take him back, and when she wouldn't, he snapped. From what I heard, he grabbed her by the throat and pinned her down. Then later, he keyed her car and slashed her tires. Yeah, real unhinged behavior. I didn't know the full story until yesterday one of my girlfriends filled me in. I had seen my boyfriend hanging out with Alan a few times recently, but I thought it was just like casual, checking in on him, stuff. Once I found out what really happened, I was livid. I called my boyfriend and told him straight up, what Alan did is seriously messed up, and I don't get why you're still hanging out with him. He kinda tried to defend it, saying Alan's going through stuff and that he's known him forever, so it's hard to cut him off. He even said he warned Alan that if he ever touches another girl again, he'd beat him up. I told him I just assumed he'd drop anyone who did something that disgusting. Like, that should be a no-brainer, right? He went all quiet, told me good night, and hung up. He didn't text me at all the next day. Not a single, hey, or good morning. Nothing. So I talked to my mom about it, because moms are wise, and she helped me write out a message to try and explain where I'm coming from. I sent it to him, hoping it would get through. Spoiler, it didn't. He doubled down. Said he didn't want to be the kind of friend who ditches someone when they're down. He literally said, that's the difference between me and you. And that it's the Christian thing to forgive and support people, even when they mess up. Like, okay, sure, forgiveness is fine. But supporting a guy who choked and stalked his ex? That's your hill to die on. He ended the convo by saying he had a lot to think about, then dipped again. And honestly, I'm not even mad anymore. Just kind of stunned and over it. Top comment. Commenter 1. I don't think your boyfriend's views match yours, and I don't think you should stay in a relationship where he makes excuses for his male friend's abusive actions. When I was in my 20s, I was in the car with my ex, who was driving, and his friend in the back. Something happened, and my BF got pissed at me and said, I should punch you for that. His mate leaned forward between the front seats in a heartbeat to tell him that if he ever said that again, he was going to get knocked out. That is a real man. Update. So, I gave him space. A few days went by, no calls, no texts, no, I've been thinking, message like I halfway expected. Just silence, and I don't know what I thought would happen. That he'd come to his senses. Realize this isn't just about being a loyal friend, but about basic decency. Respecting boundaries. Apparently not. I finally reached out again, mostly because I couldn't stand the limbo anymore. I told him, I'm not asking you to be heartless. I'm asking you to draw a line. Abuse isn't a mistake you just wave off. And if you're choosing to stand by someone who did that, it makes me question your values. His response. A whole wall of text about how I don't understand male friendship, how he's trying to be a better influence for Alan, and how it's not his job to police his friends. He said I'm being too black and white and judgmental. And I just sat there staring at my screen. Like, how did we get here? I told him flat out, if you want to be friends with a guy who choked his girlfriend and vandalized her car, that's your choice, but it's also my choice not to be with someone who's okay with that. We haven't spoken since. I think the saddest part is realizing that the guy I thought I was building something with, someone I trusted, doesn't really see the problem. Or maybe he does, but not enough to act on it, and that says a lot. So yeah, I'm heartbroken, but I'm not confused anymore. Top comment. Commenter 1. Male here. I haven't been in this exact same situation, but I was part of something similar. I used to have a male friend with whom I was super close for about a decade. We hung out all the time. I was the best man in his wedding. He and his wife decided to open up their marriage, and I started noticing that he was behaving strangely. He kept asking me how my own relationship was. He brought up the idea of swinging with my girlfriend, and we both dismissed it. Things came to a head when he showed up somewhere he knew my girlfriend was going to be. He didn't know I was going to be there too and was genuinely shocked to see me. He decided to shoot his shot and said he went there to see if my girlfriend would be interested in hooking up with him. To her credit, she responded, well, I'm glad you came all the way down here so I could reject you in person. She told me that she didn't care if I wanted to stay friends with this guy, but that she felt uncomfortable around him and wouldn't allow herself to be near him any longer. I immediately dropped that friendship without a second thought. My girlfriend is now my wife, we just hit our 5-year wedding anniversary. I've never regretted ending that friendship. Not even once. Anyway, I know there are people saying you shouldn't put boundaries on this guy, but I don't think that's what you've done here. You put a boundary on yourself. You're self-aware enough to know that you can't be with a guy who doesn't see the problematic behavior of his friend, and you shouldn't have to subject yourself to a relationship with someone like that. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, but I'm proud of you for making the decision that's best for you. Stories number 4. Aita for taking my daughter somewhere when my husband and sons went on a boys trip. I, 43F, have triplets, Mark, Liam, and Abby, 14, with my husband Josh, 45M. Last Friday Josh decided to bring Mark and Liam on a spontaneous trip to Six Flags. I don't like amusement parks, so I wasn't bothered by not being invited. Abby asked to go as well, but Mark and Liam said it was a boys' trip and that she would ruin the vibe. Abby was upset because she felt left out and I felt bad for her, so I decided we'd have a day out. On Saturday we went to Cheesecake Factory, our favorite restaurant, a local spa, and I let her have a mini shopping spree at the mall that only came out to about $150. I paid for it all since I got a hefty bonus and didn't know what else to spend it on. She felt better after, and we even had a heartfelt mother-daughter moment at Build-A-Bear where we made each other bears. We also had brunch on Sunday, although it wasn't very costly. The boys came home last night and Abby was excited to tell Josh all about what we did over the weekend. He got mad and confronted me about it, saying I shouldn't have done that. I asked why, because he refused to let Abby go in the first place, and he said it was a boys' trip and that I shouldn't get her used to special treatment for not being involved in anything. I asked why it bothered him so much, since I know he'd do it for our sons, but he won't tell me why it bothers him so much. He ended up even trying to take her bear, but I wouldn't let him. He's being cold to me and Abby now, and I'm at a loss. Stories number 5. My 35F husband, 36M, is burned out and can't work in his normally high-paying field. I'm resenting having to go back to work to support us. This is part genuine request for perspective and part getting it off my chest. To sum up, my husband and I have been married 10 years. We have a good marriage and have never faced any truly difficult times. It'll be difficult to explain everything that goes into this, but I'm happy to expound in the comments. Basically, the last decade has largely been focused on achieving financial independence. I had never been a very business-oriented person until I met my husband. He is extremely entrepreneurial and his passion for it is catching. We have run our own businesses together and separately throughout our marriage. The goal has always been to make enough money on location-independent businesses we can live freely. Not necessarily retire, but have more freedom. Because of his encouragement, I am now on a career path that could easily result in that. In 10 years, we have moved 25 times, all because better opportunities have presented themselves or current opportunities have dried up. We're now facing number 26 with number 27 not far away, because number 26 doesn't look like that good of a prospect. Without giving away details, my business fluctuates greatly. I've had months where I pull in mid-5 figures and long stretches of a few hundred. My career outside of this is food service with a very definite wage ceiling. My husband's career is professional and he can easily find a 6-figure salary position. His current online business currently brings in low 4 figures. We have always relied on his going back to work when money runs low. He's in high demand, can practically snap his fingers and get a job I cannot. Here's the conflict, and where I'll try to eliminate as much of my bias as possible. My husband is completely burned out. He physically and emotionally can't deal with the stress of going to work right now. He has supported me through the last couple years when my income has been low. I've always been aware of my financial contribution and make up for it by carrying the grand majority of the household chores. Even when I was working 60+ hours as a manager, and pulling in half his wage. But as our savings are dwindling, it's looking more and more like I'll have to get a job. That means pushing my business to the back burner, working a physically demanding job, all for a quarter of the pay he could get. I'm not one to spend money. We didn't have a wedding. We bought my wedding band 3 years after we got married. I cut my own hair. I work from home in sweatpants. It's not as though I've forced him to work jobs he hates in order to provide me with an extravagant lifestyle. I have worked shit jobs to help provide for us in the past, and even when my business isn't earning a ton, I still put in 50+ hours a week. I'm craving stability, not permanence, just the feeling that I can unpack our boxes and not feel like I should save them in a closet knowing in 6 to 9 months I'll need them again. We've been child-free for years, but the last couple years the topic has been coming up more and more. Yet I feel it's impossible to even discuss the idea of starting a family in the face of such uncertainty. I miss my cats, they're living with my parents overseas. I want a fish tank and a place to hang pictures. He says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want, however it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, what would I do in this situation if I were single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single. I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I desperately want him to find what it is he's meant to do. I don't care about the money or the dreams of financial independence if it means he's miserable trying to get there. He's been trying to work out which direction to change to for the past year and has yet to come up with anything solid. I know it's all about give and take, but I can't help but feel. I don't know. I don't have the words. And I'm at a complete loss as to how we resolve this. By the way, we have talked about all of this about 1,957 times already. There is nothing written here he hasn't heard before. TLDR, husband has always been the primary earner with well-paying jobs, but has experienced serious burnout. As we're eating into our savings, it looks like I'll have to put my business on hold and go back to work. Our discussions about steps forward have left me feeling resentful about our roles in the relationship. Am I being a spoiled brat about it all? Edit, I appreciate all the comments and opinions. This got a lot more response than I expected. Just a few things. It's difficult to sum up an entire life in a few hundred words. The moves have been for varied and obviously with 25 of them, multiple reasons. Some were because my husband was offered a good job. Others were to be nearer family. I've been pursuing my side business for the last 3.5 years. The 7 prior to that I was in full-time employment, sometimes working a full-time job while also helping to run our own business. He has not financially supported me for 10 years. I'm not sure where people got MLM from, but I'm in a creative field. As I said, I don't want to reveal details, but I create products and then sell them online. We are not scam artists nor do we have to leave town because people are catching on to our pyramid scheme, lol. As far as financials go, again, it's impossible to sum up 10 years of income. But we go through feast and famine periods, times when money is flowing in and times when we live off what we've earned. We never live outside our means and when money is good, we put thousands a month away to prepare for the down times. It's not a typical way of living so I understand it's not easily relatable. Comments. Commenter 1. So you both have entrepreneurial side businesses and full-time jobs. Plus moving every 3 to 6 months for the last 10 years. That would burn anybody out. I know financial independence is a dream, but it seems like if both put down roots, maybe for a specified time, like 4 years, and found stability, burnout wouldn't be a factor. Financially and emotionally, starting over takes a toll. I want to say make a plan, but sometimes you have to go with the flow, work a job and just make it day to day without trying to achieve large crushing goals of making it big with an entrepreneurial venture. Reply, we go back and forth when it comes to the full-time employment. Because of his high salary and short lifespan when working, it's been more like 6 months on, several months off, but there is always a side business. Always, lol. Commenter 2. If you're trying to reach financial independence based on location-independent businesses, why on earth do you have to move 25 times in 10 years? Why on earth are you moving for number 26 if you think you'll have to move again for 27? It sounds to me like there is something wrong with how your husband is pursuing financial independence, and I'm worried that your husband is not so much entrepreneurial as chasing money schemes uphill and down dale. After 10 years of working on it, how close are you to your net worth goal? You sound very frugal. Surely after 10 years you have a solid nest egg, and are seeing that net worth start to grow through compound interest. Why do you say your savings are dwindling when his business brings in enough money to pay the bills? From a FIRE perspective, this just doesn't add up. Even if this strategy really is working in a money sense, if you are sick of moving and long for stability, the strategy is not working for you or your marriage. I think your reaction to the current circumstances is about a bigger set of issues than just going back to work. You sound like you're at the end of your rope with a lot of things, moving, housework, children, and going back to low ROI work is the last straw. As others have said, your husband needs to treat his burnout. You sound burned out too. You both need to take a step back and look at your plans and lifestyle, through marriage counseling, financial advice, whatever will help you review with clear eyes and get on the same page. Your current plans and lifestyle are clearly not working for either of you. Commenter 2. You think that moving every 5 months might be a sign that they're not doing a very good job of identifying opportunities and need to reevaluate their strategy. What's happening that opportunities fade out in less than half a year, or that there's always a new better option to jump to almost immediately but they don't seem to be moving forward? That kind of lifestyle is exhausting, even if it's working. It really seems like they need to sit down and have a total rethink about their strategic outlook. Reply, when I say savings are dwindling, there is a lump of money in the savings account that we never, ever touch and treat as the rock bottom. We never get close to that amount, so in my mind, what we have to live off in savings is running out. When we budget, we don't feel like we're doing well unless we're able to put money away at the end of the month. After 10 years of working we are definitely not where either of us would like to be. That's not to say the experiences and ups and downs weren't worth it. I honestly don't think it's in my husband to buckle down with a 9-to-5 job and squirrel away money for retirement. I have always been happy to help him pursue his goals of running his own businesses because I have faith in him. It's clear after talking through this on here, we're at a fork in the road. Update. For years, my 35F husband, 37M, said that if I want stability in our life, I have to make it happen. I did. And now things are worse than ever. Help. I'm writing partly to sort all this out in my head and partly for outside perspectives. I don't even know what to think anymore. Again, I'm happy to explain any details that need fleshing out if it helps. I'll try to be concise, and I truly appreciate you reading. 9 months ago, I posted asking for help about my frustration with going back to work after my husband burned out in his career, previous post in my history. For the sake of anonymity, I tried to be vague with the details, and many thought our work was on the dodgy side. I don't care about keeping it anonymous, all these factors are relevant. I'm an author, I self-published books and made a decent living doing it for several years. My husband is a software developer and mainly buys existing online companies, and fixes them up to sell. When that's not working, he tries to work at normal 9 to 5, but typically lasts no more than 6 months. His last attempt was 1 day. My career before this was in the food industry, which means crap pay, long hours and very sore feet. I got a job that pays 95% of the bills, the rest is covered by savings. Yeah, I'd rather be working for myself, but I like it. I'm good at it. It's the first time I actually enjoy going to work. For the last few months, I've been slowly changing, and it feels like my husband and I are drifting apart. At first I thought it was a natural phase, things will definitely feel different compared to working under the same roof all day and night. Now I don't know. From the previous thread, he says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want, however it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, what would I do in this situation if I were single? How would I support myself, and I start to feel resentful. I'm not single. I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I am making enough money to support us, and it feels good. It's given me confidence in a way I haven't had before. But, it's also made something glaringly obvious in our relationship. We disagree on just about everything and we have very little in common. I'm happy to work on my writing on the side while I work. He thinks I've given up on our dream and have settled for a world, the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday world, he is loath to spend time in. He sold his business and is still figuring out what he wants to do next. I want to buy a flat in the city. He wants to move to the country, or use our savings to travel or live remotely. I want to settle for a while and make friends. He thinks there's plenty of time for that in the future. I want to make our home cozy and put up decorations like photos and artwork. While he likes it, he thinks of it all as just pointless stuff we shouldn't waste money on. I could go on, but you get it. It feels like literally everything I like, he hates. I've also realized that most of the moves, most of the big decisions were things I went along with. I'm not saying he bullied me or anything, just that I didn't feel too strongly one way or the other, so tended to go with what he wanted. Of course we talked about it, but it rarely was me pulling in the bulk of the income, so I didn't feel like I had much of a say. Now I feel strongly about a life direction and have the ability to make it happen, and I feel guilty. He says I've changed, that he's the same as he's been, wants the same things he's always wanted. This is me altering the situation, which I agree with. But it's not like it's this massive bait and switch plan. Our entire marriage I've talked about settling down. I'm rambling, here's the way I see it. We both love each other and genuinely want to make the other happy, which is why over 10 years, we've both compromised on choices that go against what we individually want. He goes to work for a little while so I can have a semi-stable home. I bounce around the world with him so he can discover himself and his career. But our tolerance for these periods have become too short to manage. He physically can't work for another person. I want to scream when I think about packing up my stuff and starting over again. Have we just spent so much of our marriage being distracted by the exciting newness of moving and pushing for financial independence, we didn't notice how little we have in common otherwise? I can't help but feel like this is on me, not my fault, per se, but on my shoulders. I'm the one rocking the status quo, and if I want things to balance out, it's up to me to adjust my expectations. TLDR, things in my marriage have shifted drastically since I started working again. For years, my husband said that if I want stability in our life, I have to make it happen. I did. And now things are worse than ever. Comments. Commenter 1. I remember reading your original post and I'm happy that you've been able to find some financial stability for yourself. Your husband can work for other people, he didn't lose his limbs in the war, he just doesn't want to. That's a very important distinction for the next point I'll be making. Your husband is content to constantly move around, live off of savings and never settle in one place. While neither of you are old, you are getting to an age where settling down and having friends and roots is important because as you age those things will get harder to do. I'm not saying people don't make friends in the latter part of their life, but rather that most people have established friend groups at your age. So, my husband and I also work in the service industry. We make a living wage but definitely nothing to write home about. Both of us would like to start our own business, but while we work on that and likely for the foreseeable future, we will work these jobs. Even when our business is running, we will need to continue to serve because most small businesses are simply not sustainable at first. Even in the long run we will most likely not profit enough to solely to be self-employed. That is a hard fact, but it is the truth and one that we can live with. Neither of us want to be servers, it's not our dream, but making money is a necessity. My point to all of this being that plenty of people work jobs that they do not enjoy and would rather not, but that doesn't mitigate the reality that money must be made and must continuously flow into the home by any means necessary. I think you should take a good, hard look at your marriage. It seems that the two of you are deeply incompatible and would both be happier with a partner who had the same life goals. If anyone has been bait and switched, it's you by your husband, who enabled you to believe that settling down was the ultimate goal of all the moves and schemes. I hope you find the answer that you're looking for and wish you a lot of happiness with whatever you choose. Reply: before I get lost in my own selfish thoughts, I want to wish you luck with your businesses. It's not easy, and I have loads of love for people who hustle for their passion. The friends and roots things is a real sore point for me. Our whole marriage we've been firmly child-free. The last 2 years, we had a last blast of "are we actually sure we're sure," which threw up a lot of discussions about the future and what we envision. We're sure. No kids. But that means if I want a network of people near and around me, I have to work to make that happen. I have no family and his family is ambivalent about seeing each other. All my friends have become acquaintances because of the moving. I see this lonely life ahead of me with no one in it, and that scares me. I just wish, and I know how ludicrous it sounds as I write it, but I just wish the normal life he could build with me would be enough for him. We could have an amazing, stable life full of traveling and friends and everything people dream of. But he sees getting a job as trading his life, his time, for money, and that's not a deal he wants to make. Thank you for your reply and I really do wish you luck. Commenter 2: you guys sound super incompatible. Is this really the man who you imagine building the life you want with? If you want a chance to keep this marriage afloat, I'd seriously consider couples counseling to see if you can find compromises here that both of you can agree to. If you can't find those compromises, then you should seriously consider moving on. Reply: yeah, I want to continue my life with him. I love him, I like him. We do enjoy each other's company. I really think these problems are probably for a professional. Update: I was recently cleaning out my bookmarks and found this old throwaway, and obviously the 2 posts I made with it. I'm not sure why now, but I feel compelled to write a follow-up. Maybe it'll give people the bravery to change, or at least an example of how sticking with what you know isn't always the best choice. An obviously very long story short, with the help of those posts and a lot of long nights of thinking, I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and at peace I felt without him around. At first the split was amicable, but looking back I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen and he could see I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when he needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him. I'm now 42, happier and healthier and more satisfied than I've been my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space, unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years, not a moving box in sight. I put art on the walls, I knew my neighbors. I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school. Made friends, built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy and realized that the abusive patterns my parents created in childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love, a real love, a supportive love that encourages growth and security. I'm doing new work that helps people and is so much more than just chasing money. All of those things have created a life that's more rewarding than I ever thought possible for myself. I've gone through some really shitty times too: illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss, but I have no idea how I would have come out the other side without the community I built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is what I would say: leave the loser. He doesn't care about you, never did. He only cares about what you can do for him, and now that you aren't serving him, well, just go. You are capable of doing difficult things, and you are worthy of the work it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities, trust your gut, it's been screaming at you for years now, honey. Life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. TLDR, left my husband, happier than ever. Commenter, this is as close to fairy tale ending as this world provides. I'm so happy for you. Stories number 6. Entitled neighbor demands I move my garden because her dog doesn't like it. I have spent the last 2 years turning a patchy, neglected corner of my yard into a small but thriving vegetable garden. It's not huge, maybe 10 by 10 feet, but I've got tomatoes, peppers, herbs, even some strawberries going. It's my happy place. Linda, a new neighbor who moved in about a month ago. We'd only exchanged a polite hi once or twice. She showed up at my door last Saturday with her off-leash golden retriever standing beside her. She starts with, "Hi, I need you to do something about your garden, please." I asked her what she meant. She says, "Yeah, my dog doesn't like it. Every time he looks at it, he starts barking like crazy. He doesn't do that anywhere else. I think it's the smell of your compost, or maybe just the way it looks, whatever. Can you move it back a little so it's more hidden and he doesn't see it?" I was shocked but stayed polite. "Well, he will get used to it." Linda, completely serious, "No, I need you to move it. Maybe to that back corner where it's more hidden." I just stood there for a second trying to process if I'd heard her correctly. Then I said, "I'm not gonna move my garden because your dog barks at it. Find a way to manage your dog." She goes, "The barking makes everything so uncomfortable. He barks really loudly because of your garden, and it's going to inconvenience other neighbors, or do you want to cause problems in the neighborhood?" A few days later, I found out from another neighbor that they confronted her about her dog's constant barking and she told them I was the cause, saying I refused to cooperate. So apparently, my tomatoes are now the local menace. Stories number 7. Aita for telling my neighbor I have no desire or obligation to babysit her children because I'm a som. I'm new to my area and I have made friends with a few neighbors through a mommy and me group. I have been in the group now a little over a month and I have a 9-week-old. I have a neighbor who is in the group and she asked me last week in an emergency if I could watch her 3 and 5-year-old, she looked desperate so I agreed. I was like, well, it's just once. I am a full-time som and enjoy all my time with my little one. That day I watched her children was hectic as hell, my daughter was fussy and they children were very rambunctious to say the least. I was happy when she came and got them 6 hours later. She came to me today saying she needed me to watch the kids in the afternoons. I told her no. I'm not a full-time babysitter and have no desire to take that much time away from my own child and navigating life with my child and husband. Her response was, well, it's not like I'm asking a lot, it's just the afternoons. I said it may not be a lot to her but it is a lot to me. My husband works from home and he needs the house quiet to work, and I'm a new mom and I'm not interested in taking on any other responsibilities other than what I have right now. She told me I was selfish. I told her she was entitled to think that I should help her just because I'm at home with my little one. Aita for being so forward. Edit. So she went on the group chat trying to disparage me, saying I'm selfish blah blah blah. One of the moms asked her why she felt I had a responsibility as a som to watch her children. Then another mom confessed and reminded her in the group chat that she tried that with her and was told that the som moms in the group are not her babysitters and she needs to make arrangements for childcare independent of the group. She attempted to double down, then the creator of the group told her it might be best if she found another mom group to socialize with. Then she backtracked and apologized. I was separately contacted by the moderator and told that if she contacts me or another mom for this reason again she will be expelled from the group. I want to thank all of you for your support and understanding my concerns. I'm navigating this and trying to figure out this new life. A year ago I was a college student hanging out with my fiancé, now husband, and now I'm a mom and a wife in a new part of the country. So it's a lot of adjusting. Thank you for your help. Stories number 8. AITH for refusing to babysit for my sister unless she pays me. I'm 20, non-binary, them, and currently unemployed not by choice, just in between jobs and figuring things out. I live with my parents while job hunting and trying to figure everything out. My older sister 33F has 2 kids 4M and 2F and she's a single mom. I love my niece and nephew to so much, but lately she's been leaning on me for childcare. Like multiple times a week and sometimes it's all day. She'll drop them off at my parents' house, where she knows I'll be. Sometimes she won't even text me or call me to let me know. At first, I didn't mind helping. But it's becoming a full-time unpaid job. I don't have time for job applications or really anything when I'm constantly chasing toddlers around. Last week I told her, hey, I can still help sometimes, but if you want me to watch the kids regularly, I need to be paid because you know my situation. She flipped. Said I was being selfish and ungrateful since I live rent-free and don't have a real job. My parents kind of sided with her, saying I should help because she's family and that it's not like I have anything better to do. I feel bad, but I also feel like my time and energy matter, even if I'm not working a 9 to 5. I don't want to cut her off, but I'm tired of being guilted into unpaid labor. What do you guys think I should do? AITH or is she? Comments. Commenter. NTA. You need to stop being home. Treat job hunting like an actual job. Get up first thing and get dressed and ready for the day and head out to job hunt. Even if that means taking your laptop to a cafe. That way you'll at least have more control over when it happens. Update. First, a quick clarification. I had mentioned in my original post that I'm non-binary and use they them pronouns. I included that just to give context about who I am as a person. I definitely wasn't trying to spark debate or push anyone's buttons. I had no idea it would make some people upset, and honestly wasn't the point of the post in the slightest. Now for the update. After I told my sister, 33F, that I couldn't keep watching her kids constantly for free and that I needed to start setting boundaries so I could focus on job hunting, she absolutely blew TF up on me. At first, it was the stuff that we had heard before. She was calling me lazy, ungrateful, saying I live rent-free and have nothing better to do. But then she said some things to me that I don't think I'll forget. She started yelling at me in front of my parents, saying I was pathetic, a burden to everyone, and that no one would ever hire an ungrateful BTCH like me. Then she straight up said, honestly, if you can't even help your own family you might as well just die because you're useless anyway. I just stood there shocked. I couldn't believe she said that to me. I've bent over backwards for her for months, rescheduled many different interviews and did everything I can to help her kids because I love them. But hearing those words from my own sister, it broke something in me. That kind of cruelty just doesn't go away. What makes this worse is that my parents still try to downplay it. My mom told me she didn't mean it and that my sister is just stressed. But there's a difference between being stressed and just being plain deliberately cruel. I've never said anything even close to that to her. Even when she's dropped her kids on me without a warning or when she's made me cancel plans. The ironic part? I actually have 2 job interviews later this week. One is for a remote admin position, and the other is part-time work at a nonprofit I really support and love what they are doing. I've been working hard on applications and resumes in between babysitting toddlers all week, and it's finally starting to pay off. But none of that matters to her. In her eyes, if I'm not working a full-time 9 to 5 right now, I'm nothing but a worthless sack of dollar hit. Also, for some added context which I didn't mention before. Both of my parents make solid incomes between $80,000 and $120,000 a year each. So we're not in any kind of financial crisis. They were also happy when I wanted to move back in after my last job let me go. There's just this expectation that because I live at home and I'm in between jobs, I should drop everything to become a full-time nanny for free. No sort of discussion, no consideration for my time, mental health, or goals. So yeah. I still love my niece and nephew with all my heart and I still want to be part of their lives. But I don't think I can keep being treated like I don't matter. Not by my sister, and not by anyone else in my family. I'll ask again. AITA for setting boundaries, asking to be paid for childcare and prioritizing my own life even if my sister thinks that makes me selfish. Also wish me luck at my interviews later this week. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, sit your parents down and lay out her behavior. If they still defend her, as soon as you start getting paychecks, you need to get out. Maybe even before then stay safe. Reply, I've actually already found a place that I want to move to, and my parents said they will pay the deposit as soon as I get a job. Commenter 2. Seeing as they're still downplaying her wishing literal death on you, don't be conned into being financially dependent on them, liable for offering childcare in exchange for the money. Commenter 3. They will absolutely hold this deposit over your head in the future. Do not take a single penny from them. Update. I didn't think I'd be back with another update, but I want to close the loop on what's been one of the most painful, chaotic, and strangely empowering chapters of my life. I originally came here asking if I was wrong for not wanting to be my sister's full-time unpaid babysitter just because I was between jobs. Since then, everything has snowballed. But through it all, your advice helped me find some clarity and more importantly some peace. So here's the final update. First, I'm working now. That remote admin position I interviewed for. I got it and I've already been working there for a little while. It's going so great. My coworkers are supportive, the job is stable and I finally feel like I'm building something for myself. I also took your advice and paid the security deposit on my own apartment. It's nothing fancy, but it's safe, it's quiet, and it's finally something that's mine. But things with my sister got worse before they got better, or at least before they bottomed out. Somehow, she got my address even though I never gave it to her. One night at close to midnight, I heard furious banging at my door. When I looked out the peephole, I saw her completely wasted, shouting and staggering, yelling insults I honestly didn't even have the energy to respond to. I cracked the door just a bit worried maybe something had happened to her kids and she got right in my face. Her breath reeked of alcohol, and she was slurring horrible things about how I was a pathetic freak who abandoned the family, how I was dead to her, how people like me don't deserve to be loved. How I was such a fuck up and that I would never go anywhere in life. It was unhinged. Then I saw her car parked crooked outside. Her kids were in the back seat. In pajamas. It was midnight. She brought them with her while she was blackout drunk and threatening me. I told her she needed to leave. That she was scaring me. She screamed in my face, stormed off the porch and came back with a rock. Before I could move, she hurled it through my front window with full force. I had been looking out the window, trying to see where her car was, and the rock hit me in the side of the face. Glass flew everywhere. I stumbled back, bleeding, stunned. And just like that she bolted to her car, still drunk, still screaming. She drove off, but she didn't get far. A few minutes later, I heard the sirens. She had crashed her car just a few blocks away. Everyone is okay. Let me say that again, the kids are okay, thank God. Some bruises, a lot of fear, but no one seriously hurt. But my sister? She's in a lot of trouble now. She got a DUI, endangering minors, and destruction of property. There's a real case building. I filed a full report, and this time I am pressing charges because what else can I do? I didn't want it to come to this. I didn't want to be the person calling the cops on my own sister, or watching her get handcuffed while her kids cried in the back of a patrol car. But she left me no choice. She put me and her own children in danger. And this time, it couldn't be ignored. And for once, my parents agree. After seeing the wreck, the police report, the hospital paperwork from where I was treated for the blow to my face, my parents finally saw it for what it was. Not stress. Not a bad night. Not family drama. This was abuse. This was unsafe, and this was something that could have ended so very differently. They apologized. Fully. Said they were wrong to enable her, wrong to guilt me, wrong to dismiss everything leading up to this. They told me I was right to set boundaries, to move out, to call for help. So Aita for refusing to be used, for choosing to protect myself, and for putting my safety above someone else's denial. No, I was never the asshole. I was someone trying to survive. I still love my niece and nephew more than anything. And I hope that as they grow up, they'll know I never walked away from them, I just finally stood up for myself. Thanks again to everyone who listened, validated, and encouraged me. I didn't have a lot of support at home, but somehow, you gave me the strength to change my life. I'm working, healing, and finally, I feel safe. Edit. I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments saying that my story is AI generated. I just want to say it's not in the slightest. This is my life, and every part of what I have said happened to me. I know the updates came quickly, but that's because so many things have been happening in a short amount of time. I've been working really hard behind the scenes to try and get out of my parents' house and finally stand on my own. For those saying it seems too fast, believe me, I get it. But I was already job hunting before my first post, and once I got hired, I jumped at the chance to get started. I also had a small retirement account I started from my last job. I never wanted to take any out of it, but I chose to take the advice you guys had given me on my last post. I made sacrifices and took a risk because I wanted a change in my life. It's fine if some people don't believe me. But this is my story, my life. I came here for advice, and I stayed and updated you because so many of you reminded me that I deserve respect and safety. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA I mean, who brings their kids along while they're blackout drunk and throwing rocks? What the hell? Commenter 2. I'm glad you're safe and finally, your parents agree with you. Perhaps your sister will now get the help she needs. And you can still continue the relationship with your niece and nephew. You were never the AH. Commenter 3. So where are the kids now? Reply, they are with my parents. Stories number 9. The guy I dated refused to show me his STD results, so I told him I was pregnant. I matched with this guy on Bumble and we immediately hit it off. We had several deep conversations via text before we even met. By the time we had our first date, we had already developed an intimate emotional relationship and we were acting like a full-blown couple at the restaurant. Pretty soon after that we became physically intimate and we both alluded to feeling super emotionally and physically connected to one another. He showered me with compliments non-stop and was basically love bombing. We were very open about having feelings for each other. We continued seeing each other multiple times a week, but it was always the same routine. He'd show up late at night, we'd be intimate, watch a show, talk and cuddle, and then he'd leave. He explained the reason for this was that it was tax season, he's an accountant, and that he was working non-stop, he'd show up still in his work clothes. I also began noticing that his texts started to become a bit sporadic. For example, he wouldn't text me back for 2 days at a time or take hours to respond. When I asked him about this, he gave me the same excuse. I had an intuition very soon after our initial date that something was off, but I brushed it off because my friends were saying that I was just trying to find the bad in a good thing. I have a tendency of running away from people when things get too serious. Over the next few weeks this feeling persisted and the dynamic of us never going out continued. At the time, I had no hard evidence, so I kept chalking my feeling up to my personal issues with relationships. However, I told him that his lack of communication bothered me and he said he would be better about that. He never was. At that point I began pulling back a little. I felt silly for texting him frequently and responding quickly. What was odd was that he noticed and began questioning me about this. He said it made him insecure and like I lost interest. I explained my rationale and was very communicative. Again, he said he would get better about texting me, but again he never did. We had this exact conversations multiple times. I hadn't heard from him in a few days, and when he eventually called me I assumed it was because he missed me and wanted to check in. No. He was calling to ask if I could get him acid or shrooms because he was going to a club that night with friends. He said the reason he didn't invite me is because I have epilepsy, which is true. At that point, I decided it was time to end things. I didn't end it on that phone call, but I was trying to talk to him about how bothered I was by his lack of communication and that he was only calling me to see if I could get him drugs. He said he couldn't stay on the phone to converse because he was having allergies and felt very caught off guard, because he wasn't anticipating having a serious talk. The next day I sent him a very cordial text explaining that it wasn't going to work out between us. He never responded. The next day he texted me like everything was normal and I reiterated what I had said earlier, but he acted as if I just felt insecure and needed reassurance from him about how much he liked me. So he misguidedly reassured me. I ended up blocking him. About a week later, I realized I was late on my period and the concerning odor I had developed from sleeping with him unprotected was persisting. This odor began immediately after he finished inside me, for the first and only time, a couple weeks prior. There are other more graphic details I won't share here that all definitively indicate that he was the cause. I messaged him telling him my concerns, particularly about the pregnancy. For context, he has a pregnancy fetish and he begged me to let him finish inside me even though I'm not on birth control. Stupidly, I consented because I was on my period at the time and figured there was a low risk of me getting pregnant. Don't worry, I will never be that reckless and dumb again. After texting him, he assured me I wasn't pregnant and was generally being supportive. I took a test and it was invalid, so I made an appointment with a doctor to do an ultrasound and get tested for STIs. I also brought up the funny smell and he said he had just gotten tested at the local college, and that he was negative but a blood panel showed that he was deficit in certain nutrients which was probably responsible for the smell. I asked to see a picture of his results. He refused. He said he would only show me if I promised to see him. He said I was making him uncomfortable and projecting my own issues onto him. He said he couldn't believe that I would just throw him away and everything we had like he was nothing and insinuate that he was being malicious. I told him that he was holding my peace of mind hostage just for the sake of pettiness. This text exchange went on for a while and he never sent me a picture of his results. I went to the doctor and was negative for everything including pregnancy, thank God, but need a medical grade douche to get rid of his rancid smelling (N). However, I did tell him I was pregnant and was still deciding whether to terminate the pregnancy or carry the fetus to term. He's been freaking out and asking to see the paperwork, but I told him the same thing he told me about his STD results. I'm not planning to keep up this ruse for long. Just for a few more days so he can experience the same anxiety I experienced. Aita in this situation. Edit. Thank you to all who have read and commented. I wanted to address some points which I've noticed have been a theme. First, I have not seen this person in over a month. Second, this has been a major wake-up call and I realize how idiotic and reckless it is to practice unprotected sex. Third, I decided prior to this post to take some time off from dating. And fourth, I am in therapy to address my trauma, depression, and relationship instability. Again, I appreciate the feedback. Edit 2. I only told him this late last night. Stories number 10. Aita giving my sister permission to breastfeed openly in my house without first consulting my husband. Due to an unforeseen issue with their new house, my sister, 27F, and her partner, 32M, and their newborn son are staying with my family, 36F, 39M, 13M, 8F, for 5 weeks. We are currently on week 2. Originally their plan was to stay at their old apartment for increased rent, but my husband and I offered our basement guest room, it's more like a suite, to them so they aren't spending extra money. Around the second day that my sister's family was staying with us, I noticed that she would leave the room every time that she had to feed my nephew. I told her that it wasn't a problem if she breastfed in common areas of the house, so long as she felt comfortable. While nervous at first, she got more comfortable around the house. Keep in mind that she was being more modest than I was when I BF'd my children, and she only did it when it was, for example, us and my daughter in the room, or her partner and I. But even when my son walked in one time he didn't notice because she was being so discreet. To be honest, he cares more about getting to hold the baby than anything my sister does. One day when my husband came home from work, he saw her feeding the baby and left the room and sent me a text message saying that we needed to talk. He then asked me to either tell my sister not to BF in the open like she was doing or to ask her to cover up if she did. Because he thought it was inappropriate and creepy to do in front of extended family, particularly our son. I told him that if there were any problems I would talk to our son. If anything, this is a good opportunity to teach him about being respectful, something he was clearly having a hard time doing. He told me that this shouldn't have been a choice that I made on my own and that my sister and I were both being inconsiderate towards him and my son. He said that while there isn't anything wrong with my sister feeding her son, that our teenage son is probably going to be sensitive to someone like my sister. When I asked him what he meant by that, he said, "She is a hot 20-something with her boobs out, he is a teenage boy." I called the way he was objectifying my sister gross and that we aren't going to raise our kids that way. He stormed out of the room and until now he hasn't said a word about it. However, my sister approached me and she said that she would rather just stay in the guest room to feed her baby because she doesn't want to step on any toes. While I can appreciate where my husband is coming from with the points he made, I think it's perfectly reasonable to allow a new mom to feed her baby wherever, and he honestly grossed me out with how he was talking about my sister and my son. Now there's a huge rift between my husband and I over something that I initially thought was a non-issue. Stories number 11. I, 27F, found a silver earring that isn't mine in the passenger seat of my car while letting my boyfriend, 32M, drive it for a few weeks and I'm not sure how to navigate the facts and my feelings. Hi all, I'm struggling to figure out how to feel about the situation in the title. I had major knee surgery 4 weeks ago and haven't been able to walk or drive. So my boyfriend has been taking care of me, and he's been doing a great job. So he's been using my car while I can't drive to go to work and take me to my appointments. When he takes me to my appointments I've been sitting in the back seat because I can't bend my knee to sit in the front seat. So yesterday, I've finally gotten to the point where I can bend my knee enough to sit in the front seat for the first time. We go get food cause I haven't been out of the house in weeks and I felt up for it. We get home and I'm getting out of my car and notice something metal on the floor of the passenger seat I was in. I pick it up and it's a silver ball earring. I immediately did not recognize it as I do not own any silver jewelry. All the jewelry I own is gold. So I said something to my BF and he seemed panicked, understandably though cause I can come off strong sometimes. He said it had to have gotten stuck to my shoe somehow, which didn't make sense to me. The facts are, I haven't drove my car in 4 weeks. I haven't sat in the front seat but once during the times he's driven me places. The earring was found in the passenger seat. The earring is silver and I don't own any silver jewelry. I do trust him but the facts stand and I just can't quite shake the feeling that I'm missing something. I asked if he had any coworkers in my car that were females and he said no. He genuinely seemed to not know how it got there, but the facts still make me question how it got there. I'm just looking for advice on how to navigate this situation and not feel like he cheated if he didn't. Edit to add, my car is brand new, I've only had it 2 to 3 months. And before surgery, I haven't drove any girlfriends in it cause I tore my ACL not too long after I got my car and haven't been driving it much. Just my brother, my boyfriend, and my boyfriend's guy friend are the only people I know for sure have been in my car in the past few months. Edit. Wow, this is the most I've ever engaged on Reddit. I'm mostly a lurker so thank you all for the responses, good and bad. You guys are some good detectives and I would definitely hire some of you as PIs if I ever needed to. Sending each one of you some extra love for helping me navigate this even if some of your comments weren't the most helpful. Also sending even more extra love to the girlies who have also gone through knee surgery and have recovered or are recovering. My conclusion is going to be, I'm gonna just be observant and see if I pick up on, or find anything else. He hasn't done anything before this to cause me to distrust him so I'm going to value that. With that said, if I do end up finding out some shitty shit I will be sure to post an update if and when that happens. Stories number 12. I 28F think a nap ruined my marriage to 30M. I'll probably delete this as the morning but I need to scream into the void. I've been married for under a year but with my husband for 6. We have a 3-month-old little girl who's fantastic. I'm a first-time mom who's a som. My husband WFH. My husband's not dumb, just emotionally inept sometimes. I've had a lot of resentment building since I was pregnant. His mom tormented me through my pregnancy by talking about miscarriages, stillbirths, and saying, "dead baby," to me every time my husband wasn't around. She denied, he sympathized with me, but nothing was truly ever done. Since I gave birth, my husband's just been clueless. When I was there recovering, he would go home and sleep and leave me all alone because the couch was uncomfortable. I had to call him 20 times to get him to wake up and come back to the hospital because I was lonely. Then when we left, he was asking me to carry things to the car with him. The nurse had to tell him I shouldn't carrying anything, I'd just given birth. When we got home, he complained about his lack of sleep. I was struggling learning how to nurse. He was my cheerleader through nursing, I have to give him credit there. As the first 2 months went by, I was consistently bawling about how sleep deprived I was while he was getting 8 to 10 hours of uninterrupted sleep every night. It caused a lot of fights because I couldn't hear him tell me he was exhausted without having a meltdown. Then his mom would come over and they'd leave a huge mess for me to clean on more than one occasion. He complained about the basement being messy, so I helped him lift things and clean it up. It caused me to start bleeding heavily, and my doctor told me I shouldn't be lifting anything heavy. This is a point of contention because my husband continuously asked me to help him lift heavy things and I couldn't, so he'd get annoyed. Then he'd complain about it all day. Now we're at month 3 and I think my marriage is over. We've been distant ever since baby arrived and I haven't wanted to have sex or be affectionate. Husband has been asking if I'm alright a lot and I say I'm fine. I don't know what else to say. But I feel miserable and tense up every time he walks in the same room as me. Today he was on my case about walking our dog. I'm so exhausted from exclusively breastfeeding and I don't have the energy to walk her. I had been up since 2:30 a.m. with my baby and just couldn't handle anything else on my plate. So he whined and moaned about doing it but promised me I could nap. I snapped and reminded him that I haven't slept a full 8 hours in months. He got pissy and stormed off. He avoided me the entire day and locked himself in his office. I spent the rest of the day randomly breaking down in full-blown sobs because I was so tired. 11 p.m. hits and he hasn't come out of his office, so I finally break and go get him. He gives me the cold shoulder and I just break down. All the lack of support just broke me. I told him I hated him, I wish I could go home, and I even mentioned divorce. He calmed me down and apologized for being selfish. When I asked what he did all day, he said he napped. He napped the whole day. While I was struggling to keep myself standing, he was napping. I broke down. I cried and cried. He was apologetic and showering me in stories and "I love you." For the first time ever I couldn't tell him I loved him too. Now it's 2 a.m. and I can't sleep because I'm so distraught. He's snoring next to me and I just hate him right now. I want to take my baby and run away. I don't want to live here anymore. Being a single mom seems easier than dealing with all this emotional stress and neglect. What am I supposed to do? I just can't believe I'm ready to leave him all because he took a nap. Update: I fixed the FTM, it means first time mom not female to male, so we talked. Well, I talked, he listened. I told him I couldn't do this anymore and something needed to change immediately or I was going to go back home and take my baby with me. He stared at me confused, but then he realized I had 2 bags packed by my dresser and ready to leave. I finally was able to articulate all the resentment that had been building. His mom's cruel and careless behavior, feeling abandoned at the hospital and now at home, how it feels that everything falls onto me so he can bring a paycheck home. I realized after saying all this I hadn't really told him how I was feeling but just continued to bottle it up. He was defensive at first and I gave him one warning that if this conversation was filled with excuses, I'm walking out. So he stopped and truly listened. He was genuinely remorseful. He only said sorry once at the end, and he meant it. Then he started asking me what I needed him to do. We made a plan and I finally feel like I can breathe a little easier. He has dog walks handled indefinitely. MIL is banned from the house and to have no contact with me or my baby. Once husband's off work, I'm off duty for the day. I'll still breastfeed because I want to do that. I get a lot of fulfillment out of it, and if you saw the way my baby pats my boob when she nurses, you would too. Her big hazel eyes are like a drug. I'm typing this while soaking in a warm bath. I've been promised the weekend to decompress and sleep until my heart's content. I'll pump instead of nurse this weekend, and we have a stash of frozen milk he is planning on using. He knows what needs to be done, her routine, how much to feed her, so I know he's capable. I can actually hear him unloading the dishwasher right now. We are planning on doing something as a couple one day out of each weekend so I don't feel like just a mom. I can be a person too. We are going to go to couples counseling and I'm going to start individual therapy. He's already in therapy. He didn't have a dad who showed him what love looked like. He had an adult toddler as a father who threw tantrums and verbally abused him and his mother. My husband often comments on how my dad drops everything in a nanosecond for me and how he wants to be like that. But he's not. He's failing me and his daughter. That was really tough for him to hear, so, now we take it day by day. If he's actually capable of change, I'll have to wait and see. My bags are still packed and by the door. I guess I have them there as a reminder to myself that leaving is an option at any moment I please. That makes me feel a little better. I'm hopeful but not delusional. I know we might not be able to come back from this, and that's okay. I have to take care of myself so my little girl has a mama who smiles at things besides her. I have an appointment scheduled for a PPD screening and my mom's planning on visiting the start of next month. My family is ready with their door wide open when I choose to come home. Made me cry to hear my dad tell me he'll be on the first flight when I'm ready so I don't have to fly home alone. Thank you all for letting me spill my guts. Update. I have been wanting to update but have been scared. I've felt so overwhelmed and haven't been sure what to write. That post I wrote was me at my lowest. I wish I could take the version of me in time and just hug her. I was broken down and I needed anyone to be real with me. Those comments felt like a slap in the face and way too much to handle all at once. So I needed time to read through and digest it all. Thank you everyone. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety shortly after I made my post. To the people who pushed me to talk to my doctor, thank you. My life has improved tenfold after getting proper treatment. I feel like in normal updates people dive into their lives and the details of what's happened. I don't want to do that. I want to say something that's more important than me and my life. To the new moms and their loved ones. If you or anyone you know has just had a baby, check in on them. If you've just had a baby, make sure you have someone who's tuned into you. Although you have brought new life into the world and it should be joyous, you are allowed to feel whatever you feel. Please, even if you feel fine, prioritize your mental health and well-being, because your baby depends on you to be healthy so they can be healthy. What you are going through is valid and important and you need someone to look out for you. While you look out for baby, someone needs to look out for you with the same love and care. As for me, my life has turned around. Taking care of myself was what I needed. I know people told me to leave my husband and how horrible he is, and like every other excuse post, you don't understand because you're not living it. I'm happy, safe, and healthy, but most importantly my daughter is thriving. It took a lot of work and it will continue to take a lot more. I love my husband and he has shown through time that he can be reliable and hasn't faltered. I really thought he would fail and was expecting it most days. But he hasn't, he actually turned it around and that feels better than winning the lottery. I guess people can change when they really want to. Can't they? I could go on and on but things are better. My daughter's happy and healthy. She's feisty like me and nothing's gonna stop her. She loves her daddy as much as I do, sometimes more, and now with a clear head I can see that things are okay because we have, and continue to learn how to communicate with one another. If I could pass anything on, check on your loved ones. Sometimes they don't even know how hard they're struggling until you pull the wool from over their eyes. Thank you to everyone. Posting was the push I needed to get help. Notable comments. Commenter asks OP if husband apologized. Reply, yes he has. He continues to and has acknowledged how his selfishness came at my expense in the most vulnerable time in my life. It's shame that follows him and he asks randomly if I really do forgive him. It's uncomfortable to see how awful he feels about what happened because all I want to say is, it's okay. But we both know it's not and never will be. So it's icky knowing he's gonna live with that but I also know it's for the best. Commenter, you're letting yourself down by staying. As someone else down thread said, your rose-colored glasses must be glued to your face. Reply, maybe, but I really don't think so. It's easy to judge and I'm not too interested if people support my choices. I really only posted this in hopes that if anyone else is struggling with PPD or PPA this could be their push to seek help. Commenter, I survived an abusive husband. Hopefully you can too. Stories number 13. My neighbor keeps trying to break into my apartment. So here's a fun little mystery from my building, every single day. Morning and evening. At 5 a.m. and again at 10 p.m., like clockwork. My neighbor tries to open my apartment door. With the handle. Like it's his. No key, just a firm jiggle of the handle before he realizes, it's not opening and casually walks away. For context, I'm a 22-year-old woman living alone. He's, probably in his 50s or 60s. Not super chatty. Talks to himself a lot though. Like, full conversations. Alone. Also, and I swear I'm not making this up, when he leaves his own apartment, he closes the door and then rings his own doorbell. Every time. No one ever answers. I have so many questions. At first, I thought, honest mistake. But the thing is, he's been living here longer than I have. So, he should know which door is his right, but we are now weeks into this daily routine. Sir. I promise you. This has never been your apartment. It wasn't yesterday. It won't be tomorrow. And yet, he persists. Like maybe one day, the stars will align, and suddenly the door will open and he'll walk into a parallel universe or something. I've decided to slip a polite little note into his mailbox, something friendly but clear, just to say, hey, please stop trying to open my door, thanks. Maybe that'll be the end of it. Or maybe he'll just start knocking for good measure. Who knows? I'm considering leaving a note on the door. A sign. Something like, still not your door, champ. Or just embrace the chaos and start waving through the peephole every time he tries. Has this happened to anyone else? Am I starring in someone's confused sitcom without knowing? Comments. Commenter 1, my question is, where in the heck is he going where he leaves at 5 a.m. and doesn't return until 10 p.m.? Reply, I wonder the same thing, and it's every single day, even on weekends. Commenter 2, why are you leaving a note? Talk to the guy. Reply, maybe because I don't want to get assaulted in case he has bad intentions. I don't think that's the case, but you can never be 100% sure. So yeah, just protecting myself, I'd rather not end up murdered at 22 LMAO. Top comments. Commenter 1, reported he could have some OCD problem or other mental illness. Commenter 2, contact building management. Update post. Well, folks, we've had progress. Maybe sort of. Here's what happened. After my last post, I left a little note in my neighbor's mailbox. Friendly tone but clear message. I then proceeded to live my little quiet life until the next day when, plot twist, he knocks on my door. At the exact moment I hear knocking, I know it's him. Call it female intuition or whatever. So I open my door. I smile. Say hi. Like everything is alright. I'm a nice neighbor, you see. He asks me if I'm the one who put a note in his mailbox. And then proceeds to tell me, very insistently, that it's not him. Not once. Not twice. But multiple times, like a gas lighting remix on loop. I tell him I hear his door open and then a few seconds later my handle wiggle. He smiles, shakes his head, and says nope, wasn't him. So I play it cool and drop a casual, it actually wakes up me and my boyfriend. Because hey, being a woman living alone next to a strange door enthusiast doesn't feel amazing. Still. He denies everything. So in the name of peace and survival, I smile, I'm the nice neighbor here, remember, say I must have made a mistake, hope he doesn't mind, really sorry for the trouble. And close the door. I then proceed to check my locks. Not once. Not twice. Honestly, I lost count. And just a quick note for those worried about my safety, I see you, protective internet strangers. I have 2 locks and a chain on the door, and I never forget to lock it. I even check it multiple times a day when I'm home. We're staying safe and paranoid, the ultimate combo. Now here's the fun part, this morning. For the first time in ages, no door handle rattle. Which strongly suggests, yeah. It was him. Surprise. I'm really not a miracle. Or maybe he really walked into a parallel universe. But my bet is, he just realized I knew what he was doing. But, because there's always one, you know, around 4 a.m., I heard him open and close his door. Twice. Like, full door theatrics, open, close, lock, repeat, not quietly, not once, twice. So while he's no longer touching my door, for now, let's make a bet, how long will it last? I'm taking guesses, he's still apparently living out some kind of nocturnal hallway ritual. Don't ask me why. The hallway spirits, maybe. Or OCD, as many of you suggested. So yeah, we're celebrating small wins. For now, my door gets to rest in peace. Let's hope it stays that way, and let's all repeat it together, some doors just aren't yours, buddy. Stories number 14, Aita for upsetting my wife. Social clean more. I, 28M, have been married to my wife Lindsay, 25F, for 2 years, we've been together for 7. Our marriage is great. Despite us both being busy with work, we still make time to go on dates and be intimate with each other whenever we can. I work in engineering and Lindsay is an RN, so I pay for most of the bills and utilities. We split the bills, but I pay for majority of the costs because I make more. Lindsay usually fully covers grocery costs and the Wi-Fi, which isn't much because it's just the 2 of us. I feel that since I make and spend more money, Lindsay should make up for that in housework. I'm not some traditional wife-desiring asshole. I think it's great that she works and has goals for her career. I want her to. I feel like our chores are split fairly. It changes day by day depending on our schedules, but typically, Lindsay cooks our meals. She is much better than me. Trust me, you don't want me anywhere near a kitchen, but it's nothing fancy or requiring a lot of effort. She does the dishes and vacuums, but it's not daily. It's more like an as-needed basis. I take out the trash weekly and wash our cars about once a month. This has always seemed fair to me, but recently I've felt frustrated with her. I've been at my current job for 6 years and I've developed really great friendships in my time here. There's a few of us that always get together on break for lunch and whatnot. One of my coworkers, John, 35M, has been married to his wife, Claire, for about 10 years if my memory serves correctly. About a month ago John invited me and the rest of the gang plus our wives to have dinner at their house. Claire is a stay-at-home mom, so she handles everything at home while John works and brings home the bacon. I know this sounds bad, but I was jealous. Not because she's a stay-at-home mom, I don't want kids, but because John has a wife that actually puts effort into her food and cleaning. Their house was immaculate, completely spotless, no dishes left in the sink, little knick-knacks left out on countertops, nothing. I couldn't believe it. Claire set the table and waited on everyone. She was thoughtful and made sure everyone's glasses were always full and would ask if she could get us more food, etc. She made filet mignon with mashed potatoes and roasted vegetables on the side. It was amazing and I can't remember the last time Lindsay put any effort into our meals. It's always something lazy like pasta, a lot of chicken-centered meals, tacos, quesadillas, everything requiring little to no effort. On the drive home, Lindsay made a comment about how Claire is an amazing cook and said she would like to have dinner with them again because they're great people. I agreed with her and said something along the lines of, "You could also be more adventurous with your meal choices so we can eat good at home too." She took offense to this and said she didn't realize her food was so bad. I said it wasn't, but it's nothing compared to Claire's because she puts no effort into it. She stopped talking to me and was pouting like a child. She went to bed without speaking to me that night. I ended up apologizing the next day when she got home and she forgave me. Fast forward a week later and I became more and more frustrated. She was working 12-hour shifts more than usual and as a result, her housework suffered. She would leave at 7 a.m. and come home at 7 p.m., and on some nights she went straight to bed without making dinner. I ended up getting takeout on those nights. Dishes were piling up in the sink, the carpets were becoming noticeably dirty, and she just sat in bed scrolling on her phone or sleeping. I tried to be understanding at first, but at this point she's used to working 12-hour shifts, so there really is no excuse. I ended up having a talk with her and was brutally honest. I told her that I'm not satisfied with her level of housework anymore and I want her to do more. I want her to come home and make dinner and I want her to put more effort into it. I gave her some examples of meals I would like to eat and suggestions for ways that she can clean before going to bed, such as drinking coffee or energy drinks on the way home. I thought she was receptive to my ideas at first, but then I realized she looked pissed. She very coldly asked me if I feel this way because of John's wife and I answered honestly and said yes. I told her I would be embarrassed if my friends came over to have dinner with us after that dinner at John's. She started tearing up when I said this and I felt kind of bad for being so harsh. She didn't say a word to me and just left the room. I came out a short while later and saw her maniacally scrubbing a stain out of the carpet on her hands and knees, still crying. I asked her what she was doing and she screamed, "What does it look like, you fucking asshole?" The stain she was scrubbing was pretty much gone, but she continued for what felt like hours. I started feeling sorry for pushing her to that point, but then I remembered something. Something that could work out great for me or go horribly wrong. When she was in high school, she was Baker acted, I will not disclose details out of respect, and was in a psych ward. She told me she used to neglect herself when she felt really depressed, but after being in the ward, she obsessively cleans when she feels depressed or overwhelmed because of the habits they drilled into her. I almost felt like a DC villain because of the huge smirk that crept on my face. So, the next night she got home at 7 p.m. I told her I had something to confess to her and she looked petrified. I told her I was sorry, but I watched porn while she was at work because I was lonely. She ended up throwing up from crying so much, but just as I thought, she started cleaning. She washed all the dishes by hand instead of using the dishwasher. She dusted everything, every fan, every TV screen, every shelf. I didn't want it to be too obvious, so I started limiting this trick to 4x a week max. Skip to present day, I made a joke at lunch with my coworkers about how I trained my wife to love cleaning. Everyone was laughing and asked for the secret, so I said, all I have to do is make her cry and she can't wait to clean. Daniel asked me what I mean, and I told him about how her response to being upset is to clean, so I've been upsetting her on purpose. Everyone was silent while I was still laughing. Adam asked why in a very unamused tone. I spilled the beans about how Claire made me realize how unmotivated my wife is and I wish Lindsay was more like her. The rest of lunch was pretty awkward and I felt like I made everyone uncomfortable. I ended up texting John to ask if I did something wrong because he didn't come by my station before leaving like he usually does. He told me he felt really weird about the way I was treating my wife and idealizing his. He told me I was being an asshole and emotionally abusing her when I should just communicate. I argued against this because I did communicate. I told her exactly what I wanted from her and all she did was make excuses about being tired from work and needing sleep. She even suggested that I should clean more if the state of the house bothers me so much and that I should learn how to cook before criticizing her. We wouldn't be able to afford the house we live in if it weren't for me. The lifestyle we live is because of me, so why can't she just show appreciation by cleaning and cooking better meals? It's been 3 days now and I am now sitting alone at lunch. When I sit with my usual group everyone stops talking. I feel like I really fucked up and want to make things right with my friends, but at the same time I feel like what I'm doing is okay because it's not for no reason. She's actually cleaning more and I'm so proud of her. Am I the asshole because I want to keep doing it? Edit, I understand that I'm the asshole now and no, this is not fake. Sorry to deprive you of that comfort. It's impossible not to recognize something is wrong with you when a good 80% of the comments are calling it fake or hoping it is. I understand now that I mentally abused my wife and I do want to fix it. Thank you to the 2 people who actually took the time to offer constructive feedback and advice. As much as I hate the thought I am going to seek out a professional. It isn't possible for everyone to be wrong and I'm right, even though that's what my brain is telling me. I know something is wrong with me even though my brain is saying there isn't. Thank you all for helping me realize it. As per request, I will update in the future if there are any changes. Comments. Commenter 1. You can argue I'm worsening her mental health with this, but my counter-argument is that I make it up to her. I've been spoiling her recently more than ever and she doesn't even bring up the things I've said done. She is very much a, what's done is done and all I can do is move on, kinda lady, so I don't think this will affect our marriage even if she does find out what I'm doing. Mental abuse I can see, but physical? You people really just say anything. I have never put my hands on any woman and I would never hurt my wife, that's disgusting. Thanks for accepting that you're mentally abusing her. That's a good first step. I'm not that dense, I know she can't do as much as Claire and that's all Claire does. I know she isn't able to do as much or have as much time to prep meals, but still, she could do so much more. She doesn't work 12 hours every day, it's just been more often the past few weeks. And I hate to say it, but she really hasn't worked as hard as me because she would be a lot further in her career if she did. Your reaction to my post does concern me though. I'm not really open to getting therapy, I'm not comfortable with talking to someone like that. Maybe I am wrong in this. I appreciate your insight. I don't believe in karma, but if it were real I'm sure there'd be consequences for me. I don't know why you're calling me obtuse though. After reading my post again it does make me sound pretty bad, but I know I'm not a bad guy. Maybe I fucked up with this one though. Sorry to disappoint you and many others, but no, this is not a joke or rage bait. I'm not clueless or stupid. I know that what I'm doing is morally wrong if you look at it in black and white, but what about the gray area? The gray area being her not being willing to step up at least a little bit more and me finding a way around that. I don't say anything that's too far, honestly the worst thing I've said was the porn because it hurt her the most, but it's not like I'm dropping life-altering nukes on her mental state. I'll admit, I don't know a lot about trauma and mental health. That is something I need to learn more about. I honestly have always viewed myself as a loving and supportive husband, but now I'm questioning everything. I don't know why my first reaction to her obsessive cleaning was to use this against her and not comfort her. I truly do believe I put a lot of effort into making her feel loved, but I'll try to do better. I'm not attracted to Claire and I never cared this much about the state of our house, but for some reason I felt less than after that dinner and like I should be embarrassed of my wife. As I'm typing this I'm realizing so much. I think I am the AH in this situation. I didn't equate her effort in housework with feeling valued, but that's something I can try. I don't know how I could help with the house besides what I already do, but I will ask her. The thought of washing dishes disgusts me to the point where I feel ill. I like the idea of us working together though. Is my post seriously that bad that nearly everyone is asking if this is fake? Like seriously. I have seen some pretty crazy stories on here and mine is nowhere near the levels of depravity I've seen. Somebody says if one partner makes 60% more than the other, they should pay more bills. I never really thought about it that way. As far as the bills go, yes, and that's why I pay more, but that's exactly why I felt like she should do a bit more than me because of how much I had to work to get to this point. You all make me feel like a fucking animal for saying this is fake. There is absolutely no way this is that bad. I'm not narcissistic either, but thanks for the internet diagnosis. My coworker's reaction is what made me question if I was wrong for doing this in the first place, so I 100% did take it into consideration. It's hard for me to equate this to the crazy-ass stories I've seen about literal physical abuse, cheating with family members, even stories about p***dophilus. There's just no way. You're only questioning your shitty behavior because your colleagues called you out on it. Well, if it isn't Captain Obvious here to save the day. Is that not what this subreddit is for? Someone being called out for something and then wondering if they were wrong for it. Obviously I wouldn't have done this if I thought it was abuse. I clearly have a very different view on what abuse is from everyone else, and that's something I will look into. Anyways, the house isn't a mess to the point where I need to hire someone. That would just be a waste. I've been thinking about this a lot, and honestly I should step up more. I was never dissatisfied with her performance before that dinner with John and Claire. I'm realizing now it was never about my wife. It was me feeling inadequate for some reason, like my wife and home aren't worth bragging about. I understand now that I have some shit to work through, and I need to learn what it actually means to love someone and not just what they provide for you. I have always viewed value as achievements and skills, so I guess my wife's value diminished in my eyes when I realized others are doing more, and my own value decreased because I don't have the life John does at home. I think you might be misunderstanding what I said. I said, like that, as in being vulnerable and telling some stranger my deepest darkest secrets. Online it's different because you don't know me, your opinions of my character don't matter and it won't affect me. The thought of therapy just makes me physically cringe. I'm not the emotional type and don't need to cope with anything, I have no trauma, and therefore therapy would be a waste. I'm not afraid of a professional calling me out, it's just not something I'm interested in. It's not out of fear, I really don't care if a professional calls me out so long as they tell me how to do better. I'm not trying to deflect or be defensive, but it's hard not to be when people are commenting stupidity about this being fake instead of actually offering advice, constructive criticism, minus a few. Of course I'm open to me being wrong, and after talking with some users I do think I'm in the wrong. I'm still coming to terms with it mentally and trying to understand. I have a lot to learn about myself and why I was proud of this. My coworkers have been so cold to me, and the comments are just reinforcing that feeling. It seriously feels like my world is crumbling. My reality is clearly very different from the real world if everyone thinks what I did is insane to the point where it's unbelievable. That's very interesting actually. I'll admit I'm ignorant when it comes to mental health and trauma stuff because it's never affected me. Even though just imagining it makes me uncomfortable, I think I should open my mind to a therapist for my wife's sake. I feel so fucking disgusting, and you were right in your other comments saying I was being defensive. I can never accept when I'm wrong and everything I do is always right. I feel like a fraud of a husband and I'm not the man she married. I don't know what's happened to me, but I really do want to be better. I seriously don't know what to do with this because I was proud of what I did. I thought I was clever. I had no empathy or pity for her. I didn't think I was actually hurting her. I know that sounds stupid, but that's how it was to me. The more I type and think, the more I realize I do need help, something is not right with me. I'm not misogynistic at all. I don't think women need to cook and clean and sit at home while the man goes to work and provides financially. I don't want her to put more effort into her meals plus cleaning because she's a woman, it is solely based on financial input. Reddit users love saying divorce, that's why marriages don't last these days. Instead of actually working through problems, people would rather run away. And what do you mean nurses are sought after? Why? Update. So, hi. It's been a while. I don't have a lot to say, but I was asked to update if I ever decided to try therapy, and I did. I didn't like it. I dropped out of individual therapy after 2 sessions. My therapist was more interested in my childhood than giving me actual advice, but stuck with couples therapy. I tried, I really did. The therapist and my wife would gang up on me. The therapist changed my wife a lot. She went from being kind and soft-spoken to rude and brazen. She would snap on me for absolutely nothing and constantly bring up things I've done in the past to use against me in an argument to try and make me submit. Remember how my wife is an RN? Yeah, well, she was fucking cheating on me with some ugly C***nt working the same shifts as her. She confessed to that in therapy and said if I could forgive her she could forgive all the things I've done. Nothing I have ever done has been close to this. I have never cheated. Vows mean nothing apparently. She also shared a lot of things she never told me, like her last grandparent passing away. In her words, he wouldn't care. Yes, I would have if she told me. She had no reason not to. I wouldn't have been so harsh about the housework if I knew she was grieving, but no, go ahead please, don't tell me anything and then use it against me later because that makes sense. I thought couple therapists were supposed to be natural. Isn't their entire purpose bringing couples together and helping them understand each other? Since when do they call their clients manipulative? How is that allowed? Anyways, back to the bitch wife. I can't forgive a cheater. She is staying with her parents for now as we are separated. I don't want her back in my house. It makes sense now why she didn't want to have sex anymore. We stopped going on dates. Our intimacy suffered. All because she cheated. Therapy was a waste of time and money, but I guess it was worth it in the end because I learned what kind of person she really is. She disgusts me. I did not want therapy, but I tried my best for her and to change. That is clearly not what she wanted because she cheated. I learned this information last month and I have finally come to terms with it. As for my friends, I'm still cool with a few of them, others clearly look down on me so I don't interact with them anymore, but we don't eat lunch together anymore. I sit elsewhere now and it's not too bad honestly. I'm meeting new people. Maybe I'll find love again soon, but who knows. My reputation at work in regards to personal matters is kind of shit now. Well, that's really it. Thank you for reading. Stories number 15. Aita for telling a coworker to mind her F business. So I'll give some background so people can try and understand why I had this outburst. I am a first-generation immigrant and have no family left in the States. My favorite uncle was deported in 2009. My mother was deported in 2011 and I lost both my grandparents in 2012 almost back to back. I have no contact with some extended family and I moved to a different state where I only have my partner. I work for a grocery store and I keep to myself most of the time, but as of recently I have become close with one of the store greeters, let's call her Susie. She is a 72-year-old woman I can say is a hard worker and a kind person. During my breaks she started to talk to me, and everyone at work know a lot about her because she likes to talk a lot, but I think it's because she's lonely. Okay, I'll just move forward to the issues that happened. Susie is a widower that due to fertility issues did not have any children, but she has cats. Their names are Willie and Bill and she refers to said cats as her boys. I myself have 2 cats and I refer to them as my girls, Susie and I bonded over this and we talk a lot about our cats and I even sometimes go over to her home to help clean up and wash her litter boxes every 2 to 3 weeks. Anyway, we have a coworker, we'll call her Karen. She is the boss's minion, she thinks she can boss us around and it's pretty annoying tbh. So the other day Karen heard us talking about how Susie is taking her boys to the vet and I was going over possibly joining her or my partner. Karen butted in really loud, I didn't know you guys had playdates for kids. She knows Susie doesn't have kids. My guess is she was being nosy. Susie, being the angel she is, responded, oh we do. We have playdates with our fur babies. Karen's face changed and she looked mad. Animals aren't kids, she said, super rude, and it made me and Susie uncomfortable. Susie tried to laugh off the tension saying something along the lines of, to each our own, but Karen kept going at it. She scolded us, told us how inhumane it was for us to compare children to animals. Went on and on about how she had a cousin that lost a baby and couldn't imagine hearing someone like us call animals children. I was getting fed up because Susie looked like she was going to cry. Then Karen said, but I guess I shouldn't expect someone who can't have their own kids to understand. To say I was shocked, she said, that is an understatement. Susie looked crushed and I snapped, Karen, why don't you mind your F business? Karen huffed and puffed how she was going to tell the manager what I said to her, but IDC. Susie ended up taking the day off after that and requested time off. And I know I will have disciplinary actions for what I did. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Tell HR about how she was bullying a widow who couldn't have children about her cats. By the way, NTA. Reply. I will filing some sort of complaint with HR and see where it goes. Thank you. Commenter 2. NTA, and you should get to HR before she does because bringing up someone's infertility in a nasty way is bullying and no way is that allowed in the workplace. Reply. I am starting to get feeling I should do this. I've had a lot of people message me and I see few post here. I think I will be taking this further, thank you. Commenter 3. NTA, she can F off with that holier-than-thou attitude and keep her nose out of other people's business. She butted into a conversation she wasn't welcome in, got all judgy and shitty, and then shamed a child-free person. Update. I was let go by this employer and to be quite honest it was a blessing in disguise. I was treated very poorly after I got HR involved at the advice of many of this thread. I had a bad feeling if I did that, I was going to be bullied relentlessly because the HR we have is not a normal one, it's what is called partnered HR and they are about the employer and saving their company and not caring about the employees. I had spoken with Susie who at first was apprehensive about escalating the situation, but I told her I was going to do it in our behalf and before I knew it I was literally picked on afterwards. It's okay though, I was let go and Susie quit right after, and I am helping her right now, cleaning her house and cooking for her as well. I thankfully do not need money, my partner, and I knew something like this would happen if I took matters to HR, so they are working OT at the moment, and Susie, being the angel she is, has helped me when needed, which is why I am doing all her housework to repay her for the help she gave me this past month. She also opened up about her husband, who was an expert in a field of work I am very interested in, and she has actually spoken with many of her late husband's friends, and I have a chance to work my dream job. I am thankful for everyone who told me I did well for standing up for my friend. She is amazing and I do not regret what happened. We also spent all holidays together, and my friend Susie looks a lot happier since leaving that toxic place, so again thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. Edit. I am making this one and only edit because while firstly I am overwhelmed with the response on this post, I had no intention on saying anything, but I see people saying I should sue and so forth. TBH, it's not worth it for me. I feel like the only comment that resonated with me was the one to report what happened so others are careful if they work for this company and store in particular. I would hate for anyone to go into this blindly, that place especially NC. It was good to me up until I involve HR. I really from the bottom of my heart thank each and everyone that in good faith are telling me the steps to take, but have to be careful how I proceeded in corporate America because this will residence until maybe 2025 or 2026, and I am POC. I know there is a place I meant to take in USA. I want to cherish my friendship with Susie, I want to travel with her and show her my home country, and I want her to enjoy her days, and that's the bottom line for me. Stories number 16. Aita for no longer allowing my sister or her family in my home or near my children because of her husband's ex. My sister, Mary, married her husband, James, 6 years ago after dating for a year. James was a father of two who shared custody with the mother of his children. At first things appeared good. Mary told our family that James was a gentleman and a good father and that things were perfect. She said they were on the same page about what they wanted their future to look like, and I was extremely happy for her and had a good relationship with James. James' two children were a little different. They seemed very shy and weren't very comfortable around us. But our whole family tried to welcome them and get to know them. James said they were like that and they'd warm up eventually. I did begin to wonder after a year of them being distant despite regular contact with us. They never wanted to join in the other kids and answers from them were very short and reluctant. Then we learned that things were not so perfect and that there was trouble with the ex and that she had badmouthed Mary and the rest of us to them and discouraged them from forming a relationship with us. We learned this after Mary and James had a brick thrown through their window, and Mary admitted to me and our other sister that James' ex was unhappy with their marriage and was trying to destroy their marriage and family. Soon after that my sister announced she was pregnant, and this is when the behavior became impossible to miss. James' ex was showing up outside their house and screaming at them. One time I was with Mary and the kids in McDonald's and their mom showed up and tried to take them off Mary despite it being James' custody week. She called me a B-word because I was sitting with her kids, and she called my sister worse. All in front of the kids. Another time we were at Mary and James' house when his ex showed up to demand the kids. The kids wanted to go with her clearly, and James told her it wasn't time for a custody exchange. The ex called Mary and James' oldest a few slurs before storming off. James' kids were upset and wanted to be with their mom and not James and Mary. I, along with others in my family, tried talking to Mary about this and asking what was being done. She told us they were handling it, but it was difficult because the kids loved their mom. We told her that was no way to live and she had the baby to think about. Then she and James had another child and nothing had changed. They pressed charges against his ex a few times but dropped them when the kids became upset. More recently she has started showing up at mine and other family members' houses when the kids are over. The kids have phones and they tell her where they are. They do this on family days and all kinds of times, knowing their mom will show up and cause trouble. Mary told me they want to go with her and don't care about the risks posed by inviting her when she's like that. I heard James' daughter say she would love to see her mom beat my sister's ass. And there were mentions of fires too. James and Mary do nothing to stop the kids sharing this info with their mom, and she has turned up at my house twice already. I have a husband and kids and I could not let this keep happening, so I told Mary that she and her family are no longer allowed to come to my house. I told her I do not want this woman throwing bricks through my window or worse. I told her I didn't like doing it but I needed to protect my family. Mary told me that wasn't fair and they're doing their best to deal with a difficult situation. That she has her family to think about too. Other family members are not following suit but they support me. All except one brother who said this was overkill and claimed we should be supporting Mary and showing the kids we love and support them and are their family no matter what their mom says. My husband is 100% in favor of this, and we also stopped attending so many family gatherings in order to protect our kids. Ida. Did I go too far? Is this overkill? I would say it's common sense, but maybe I am punishing the victims. And for clarity, James' kids with his ex are 13 and 11 now. Stories number 17. My fiancé and I broke up last night. My 6-year relationship ended last night. Now, I know this is Reddit, so you're expecting some Jerry Springer story. Over-the-top drama or fan fiction about cheating. This is not that, sorry to disappoint. It's two adults who sat down, talked, and realized this were not going to work out as we expected. I got laid off from my software job over a year ago. It was fully remote, and the industry for those kinds of jobs is so competitive. I knew my next tech role would need to be at least partially on site. The industry where I'm at is non-existent, so I went back to serving this last year, and I hated it just as much as I did in college. I've been interviewing on and off for the last year, with very little luck. My fiancée is the opposite. Her job here is secure, a job she can ride for 40 years till retirement if she wanted. If she wants to change companies or roles, there's competition in the industry here she could go to. Relocating could happen if she wanted, but her family and friends are all here, and she very much wants to raise kids here. We talked about the possibilities of what would come when I got another job. We held out hope for a fully remote position, or one I could commute for. Those hopes never really panned out though. A month ago, a friend reached out with a position I fit really well in. It's at a company that will look amazing on my resume if I work there for a few years, and if I want to I could stay for a decade plus. From what he told me, I aced the interviews and am the guy they want. The problem is, it's on the other side of the USA and I will have to relocate. The fiancé and have talked it over several times this last month. What to do if I got the offer, what about her job, the logistics of everything. It did not look good. She doesn't want to move, but is not opposed to it. We talked about me moving first, and her staying until she found work there. Neither of us were very fond of this. We talked about maybe doing some long-distance thing too, no dice. Throughout this all, there was no animosity on her end. No drama, no hatred. She told me she felt bad several times because she knew I was staying in a place with bad job prospects for her. I told her that was not the case several times. Last week, they made a really competitive offer. Full coverage of my relocation, large sign-on bonus, great perks. I hesitated to accept since I wanted to talk with the fiancé about it more, but she encouraged me to take the job and we would figure out what to do from there. I think it all came down to the fact this last month has illustrated something we both didn't really want to realize: where we see ourselves in 10 years is not the same. She wants to stay here, be with her friends and family, raise kids in her hometown. I want to be somewhere else. Even if I didn't get the job offer, it did not change the fact I didn't want to live here long term. I'm willing, and able, to move around for work. I don't have the same need to live around my family here. There's much more to this than just one aspect of life. There are at least a dozen we've realized we don't match on. But, I don't feel like getting into it. So, last night, we talked again. We agreed it was best for me to move and start my new job. We had put the wedding plans on hold anyway when I got laid off, so it's not like we're canceling anything. We're going to trickle the news out over the weekend. I love her, and I know she loves me. She's my best friend, and she made it clear that won't change. But still, this sucks so much. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my dad I don't want him to marry his girlfriend. My parents, both 46, got divorced 6 years ago. My mom remarried 3 years ago, and my dad has had a few girlfriends. His current girlfriend is the only one he has ever brought around. My mom has met her and likes her, and my sister idolizes her. She's nice and I don't dislike her. The actual problem, she's 27, exactly 10 years older than me. To me, it's so weird. I don't understand why my dad wants to date someone so much younger than him. When he asked my sister and I if we were okay with him asking her to marry him, my sister was excited. I wasn't. I told him I wasn't comfortable with the age gap and thought she was just a sugar baby. Dad explained she has her own career, but said okay. Since that conversation, my dad has been really sad, and the atmosphere in his house has changed. His girlfriend hasn't been by as frequently either. I feel kind of bad because I want my dad to be happy. Aita, edit, this blew up bigger than I expected it to and found its way to my dad. Now he wants to have a talk this weekend. Comment. Commenter 1, how long have they been dating? You said she seems nice enough and the only real concern you have is the age gap. While that's a valid concern, age gap relationships can be normal, healthy relationships. Talk to your dad and see if perhaps you could try getting to know her better before any permanent decisions are made. Reply, my sister and I met her around New Year, but I think they were dating for 13-ish months before that. Top comment. Commenter 2, NAH. I think it's fine for you to be honest with your dad that his behavior and choices have damaged your opinion of him and made you uncomfortable. If he is genuinely damaging your view of him by being a dirty old man who goes for the 20 years younger girls, that is info he needs to know. I'm super curious what his answer would be if you asked how he'd react to you dating a 36-year-old, since that's the same age gap. However, there are consequences, since everything has consequences. One of which is that his girlfriend is probably going to dump him, because if she wants marriage, they are no longer compatible, and for him to be sad about that. And that's perfectly fine. Hopefully he isn't too sad for too long and picks a more age-appropriate partner next time. Do be aware that this has the potential for a different sort of consequence, him deciding he'd rather have her than your approval. Be cautious in the future, because sometimes, most times, when people are asking for your blessing, they aren't really asking, they've already decided what they want to do, so you have to decide if jamming a wrench in that is worth it. Update post. So my original post blew up and managed to find its way to both my dad and his girlfriend. Her name is Jenny. Jenny thought it was really funny while my dad was mortified. Some of the comments were really mean towards my dad, which made me a little sad. He's a great dad and trying his best. As a whole, the comments section had me thinking about my father's love life too much, and I know now not to air my parents' business on the internet. To clear up some confusion, my dad was not asking for permission. He was simply asking how my sister and I would feel about him remarrying. As for the actual update, my dad sat me down and explained he wasn't upset over me or what I said. He was upset that he didn't know I was uncomfortable sooner. He told me that him and Jenny met at a conference, and that they both thought the other was lying about their age. Jenny thought Dad was younger and Dad thought Jenny was older, apparently because of how high up in her career she is. It was nice to hear that Dad wasn't intentionally going for women in their 20s and that Jenny was the first girl he dated that young. Jenny took me out solo for matcha the other day too. She said she never wanted to be a mom and doesn't want kids. She said that she liked that Dad already was a dad to older kids and didn't want more, and that's why she kept dating him. She said she doesn't want me to think of her as a stepmom, just a cool adult. I apologized for calling her a gold digger, and she said it wasn't a problem. Apparently she could see why I would have thought that and isn't upset. Jenny wants the internet to know that she's about to turn 28 in a few days. Anyway, Dad's not really upset with me. I still like Jenny, everything has been cleared up and I'm not really uncomfortable anymore. Thanks Reddit. Stories number 19. My 26F, brothers, 29M, husband, 29M, is acting weird and possibly flirty with me, and I'm really confused because he's gay. I need some outside perspective because I feel like I'm going crazy. My brother, Matt, 29M, has been married to his husband, Eric, 29M, for about 3 years now. They've been together since college, and I've always liked Eric. He's smart, charming, a little sarcastic, and honestly one of the easiest people to get along with in our family. I never had any issues with him until recently. Over the past few months, Eric's behavior around me has started to feel a bit off. It started subtly complimenting my outfits in ways that felt a little too lingering or putting his hand on my lower back when there was absolutely no need. I brushed it off as just him being overly friendly or tactile. He's always had kind of a flirty energy, but it was never directed at me before. But then it escalated. A few weeks ago, Matt and Eric hosted a small birthday dinner for me at their place. It was just the three of us and a couple friends. I wore a pretty basic outfit, jeans and a tank top, and when Eric opened the door, he said, if I weren't already gay and taken, and looked me up and down. I laughed awkwardly, thinking he was just being ridiculous, but later that night, he brought me a drink and said, careful, if you keep looking that good, you'll start giving me a crisis. Again, he's gay, married to my brother. I don't get it. Since then, he's texted me randomly at night a few times. They are not overtly inappropriate, but just weird little things like thinking about that story you told the other night and cracking up again. You really light up a room. It feels like he's testing the waters, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. Matt hasn't noticed anything as far as I can tell, and I feel incredibly uncomfortable. I don't want to make a huge thing out of nothing, especially because they're my family. But this doesn't feel like nothing anymore. I keep second-guessing myself because Eric is gay. Not attracted to women at all. Right? I shouldn't be feeling creeped out, but I am. Is it possible he's just being playful and I'm misinterpreting it? Or is something else going on here? Can any gay dudes give me advice on this, please? TLDR, my gay brother's husband is acting flirty and a little creepy with me, and I don't know what to make of it. Am I imagining this or is it something I should address? Update, my 26F, brothers, 29M, husband, 29M, is acting weird and possibly flirty with me, and I'm really confused because he's gay. A lot of you validated what I was feeling, that something was off, and encouraged me to set boundaries. That gave me the courage to actually say something, which led to this. I confronted Eric a few hours after my post. My plan was just to make it clear that whatever he thought he was doing, it needed to stop. That I wasn't comfortable and I didn't want things to get weirder. But the conversation went sideways fast. I told him that some of his recent comments had crossed a line, and that while I wanted to believe it was harmless, it didn't feel that way anymore. He looked at me for a long time, didn't say anything, and then finally said, "I'm bisexual." He told me that in high school, he had relationships with girls, and that while he realized pretty early on he was mostly into men, he never stopped missing certain things about being with women, the way it felt, the different kind of energy. But then he met my brother in college, fell in love, came out fully, and figured that part of his life was just done. Except, according to him, it never really went away. He said that being around me lately stirred something up and reminded him of what he used to feel with women. He said he wasn't trying to act on anything, but being near that energy again made him feel alive in a way he hadn't in years. I was honestly stunned into silence. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I asked him flat out if he was attracted to me. He said no, but said that he saw me as the key to unlock a part of him he had hidden away. I asked if Matt knew any of this. He said, no. He thinks I've only ever been gay. I didn't want to confuse him or myself. That's when I got angry. Because I realized this wasn't just about me feeling uncomfortable, this is a giant, relationship-shaking lie that could blow my brother's life up. I told him that this wasn't fair. That he doesn't get to use me to explore something he's been suppressing for years. That I love my brother, and I wasn't going to be part of any kind of emotional affair, bisexual awakening, or whatever this is. Then I left. I didn't tell Matt yet. I'm sitting with it, trying to decide if it's even my place. I don't want to destroy his marriage, but I also don't think I can look him in the eye pretending everything's normal. I feel sick. I feel used. And I feel like I'm carrying a secret that isn't mine but could hurt someone I love deeply. TLDR, I confronted my brother's husband about his flirty behavior. He came out as bisexual and admitted he used to sleep with women and misses that intimacy. He said I reminded him of something he buried long ago. Now I'm stuck with this secret and don't know what to do. Stories number 20. For not telling my parents that my arranged marriage is actually a love marriage, I 23 female have been dating my neighbor 25 male since 10 years. Keep in mind I live in a third world country and in my culture love marriages and girlfriend-boyfriend relationships are seen as a shame. My boyfriend's family is not like that, so they know about me from the beginning and I have met them several times. But my family on the other hand. For girls it's a big fat no when it comes to dating no matter you're 18 plus or 20 plus, so I have been hiding this relationship since 10 years from them. Don't get me wrong, my family is understanding and gives me freedom. I can go wherever I want with my female friends or whatever I want, but it's just the boyfriend thing that's not allowed. Yes, I live with my parents at 23 because in my country people live with their parents in their home no matter their age. It's not just my family actually where I live, it's a cultural thing that girls can't date. Last year when I turned 23 my family started looking for marriage options for me, arranging a marriage for me, but I couldn't do an arranged marriage as my boyfriend and I loved each other a lot. But I was scared shitless to tell my family that I have had a boyfriend all this time. I don't know, maybe they would have agreed, maybe they would have been angry and then agreed, because don't get me wrong, my parents do love me a lot and do every possible thing to make me happy, but telling them that I have been keeping a boyfriend behind their back, lying to them to meet him, I just didn't want them to think I broke their trust. So I made a plan. As my boyfriend and I were neighbors, our families knew each other, they were not friends or anything, but my parents knew my boyfriend's mother. So I asked my boyfriend's mother to tell my parents that she would like me to be her daughter-in-law, that way my parents would think that it's an arranged marriage. Actually it's a tradition here in arranged marriages that the guy's mother has to talk to the girl's parents if she wants their daughter's hand in marriage for her son, so my boyfriend's mother did just that, and trust me, I was so nervous about what my parents would say. If they say no, then what? Then I would have to tell them the truth. This thought alone was enough to take my anxiety to the roof. But thank God. My family actually really liked the proposal and agreed. We had an engagement a few months back and we are set to marry this year. I am super happy, happiest I have ever been to marry the love of my life, which I prayed for since 10 years. But often I feel a bit guilty about lying to my family. So AITA for not telling my parents that my arranged marriage is actually a love marriage. P.S. People are saying my parents might know. I think that's highly unlikely because I never got caught. They didn't even have a single hint that I could ever date. I never gave them any reasons to be suspicious. They actually agreed so easily because my fiancé have been treating my father with special attention since years whenever they meet outside the house. Also, he had been bringing food, sweets on special occasions and festivals. He did every possible thing to impress my father, and his family has a good reputation in the neighborhood, so my parents agreed easily because they knew he's a good person and family also has good reputation. Stories number 21. Aita for not reconciling with my sister after she said my husband should find a real wife and other hurtful things about my infertility. My older sister Nora, 42F, and I, 34F, stopped talking almost 4 years ago after she said multiple hurtful things about my infertility. The finishing one was her saying my husband should find a real wife who could give him children. I'd let her get away with so much because I love my family, including my 3 other siblings, and I didn't want to make life more difficult for anyone else. But my husband told me I shouldn't destroy myself so everyone else could be happy. And her comments were destroying me. Examples of a handful of the things she said are, I was too old to be a first-time mom and needed to stop trying. I was clearly unfit to be a mom and couldn't see it, but my body was telling me I should just accept my life as the forever childless babysitter. Nobody else in our family had trouble getting pregnant and I was clearly the loser of the family. Getting pregnant is so easy and even grandmothers were getting pregnant easier. The rest of my family was understanding when it went too far and I couldn't cope with her anymore. They knew my husband was extremely bothered by Nora's comments too, and he was on the verge of losing his shit with her. My husband and I continued trying to have children together, and last year we were successful after our one last time IUI. My pregnancy was very complicated. We knew early we were having twins, but my body did struggle and I was hospitalized on and off during my pregnancy and stayed in the hospital from 7 months until delivery to keep all 3 of us safe. It was after the birth of my children that Nora reached out and said she wanted us to repair our relationship. In her original reaching out message she congratulated me on the birth of my daughter but not my son, and she talked about how exciting it was to have a little girl in the family. At no point did she apologize for what she said or recognize my son other than saying, the twins, one time. I didn't reply, but I did mention it to my husband. He read it too and he was like, fuck her. Nora reached out again after 2 weeks with no reply and she was like, I think you might have missed the message, and she told me again she wanted to reconcile and she guessed now that I had what I wanted we could work on being sisters again. Once again she mentioned how she couldn't wait to see my daughter. I responded that I did not feel like reconciling with her and we were better off staying no contact, and I muted her. My reasons aren't just because of what she said to me and because she didn't apologize, but I have a son too. I don't want to reconcile with Nora and subject him to being left out because Nora only has boys and is obsessed with girls. Both of my children deserve to be treated with the same love, respect and excitement within our family. Nora has complained to our other siblings about this, and my older brother and younger sister have told me I could at least try. They said trying after 3, almost 4 years it's time to see if we can all move forward. They did admit they wanted Nora to shut up, but they say it would also be good for us all to move past this. My younger brother doesn't agree and has told me we're doing the right thing, and he said it's right for all the reasons I have. But my other 2 siblings believe I could communicate and be open to seeing if Nora can acknowledge where she went wrong with everything. They said I could do that for the sake of everyone. Stories number 22. Wibta if I don't go to my friend's wedding because I'm not a bridesmaid or invited to the bachelorette. In 2022 we moved and made friends with a couple, Melanie and Adam. In 2023 we were invited to go to Mexico with them and some friends, but we unfortunately couldn't make it as I was sick. Adam was going to propose to Melanie and 10 minutes prior he got cold feet and told her his plan and said he can't do it. For the next year they were on and off, going to therapy, etc. During this time I supported Melanie and was the only one who didn't tell her to leave him and not work on it, as told to me by her. This took a lot of emotional support and time, which I have no issue giving a friend, but it is worth noting. Also during this time she would always say, if I ever get married you'll be a bridesmaid. Well, they got back together, Adam proposed, and they are getting married. Time passed and I saw other people get asked to be a bridesmaid, but I never did. When I asked her about it she said that she was limited, as she was paying for everything for her bridal party and there wasn't room in the rehearsal dinner for any more people. While I was disappointed I told her I understood and no hard feelings. She said she still wants me to come to the bachelorette and we talked about different ideas and cities her and the MOH were thinking of. While hanging out Adam had also mentioned the bachelor party to my husband and even asked his thoughts a few different cities. They also asked my husband to officiate their wedding, but he is scared of public speaking and their other option is Melanie's best friend who does public speaking for a living. We learned yesterday that we are not invited to the bachelor and bachelorette parties. While I went to the restroom my husband asked point blank. Melanie said it was just going to be a tight-knit group of girls, however I know one bridesmaid hates the MOH, and Adam apologized for having talked to my husband about it multiple times. Now their wedding is at an expensive resort in Winter Park, Colorado. Rooms there are expensive even with the discount, plus dog sitters for our 2 dogs, and flights. We also have a baby who would be 1 year when we go and would have to leave him with family. If they had never told us we were a part of the wedding, asked to officiate or invited to these events, we would not be upset. However, it feels extremely disrespectful and our feelings are hurt. So would we be assholes if we cancel our room and don't attend? Comments. Commenter 1, fuck em. You obviously won't enjoy it, and they don't appear to like you very much, so nobody will benefit from your going. Commenter 2, RSVP no, and when asked, we're limiting our spending on just our tight-knit group of friends. Commenter 3, up until the end there I wouldn't have had NTA, but I do now. It wouldn't be a small thing for you to go to her wedding, it would be a huge commitment financially and time-wise. Destination weddings are for close friends and family. I feel like they pushed you out of that category for some reason, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Commenter 4, no. Just say sorry, but we are no longer able to attend. No explanation needed or necessary. She didn't tell you why you weren't asked to be a bridesmaid or why your husband wasn't asked to attend the bachelor's party. You had to ask for an explanation, you owe them nothing. But don't be surprised if this comes between your friendship. Honestly, they don't sound like very good friends, more like it's all one-sided as you and your husband give and they take. That's my take from what I'm reading here. Update. So here to clarify one thing and update everyone. Just to clarify, when they asked my husband to officiate, they openly told him there was another candidate and who she was. He was the groom's choice and she was the bride's choice. It was the bride's childhood friend who is a professional public speaker. Meanwhile, we've known they for only a couple years and 90% of it they were on and off. Okay, now for the update. The next day Adam texted my husband saying, summarized, thanks for calling me out on the bachelor party. Whiplash definitely dropped the ball on communicating. Then asked to hang out in the next couple of weeks. My husband responded saying, water under the bridge, you mentioned it to me a couple times, and asking where should it be, who can is why it was confusing. It was also odd because you asked me to officiate, which is higher than bachelor party, but not invited to that, yet Melanie's friend who is officiating is. Also OP is legitimately hurt. Adam replied, I can see how you would get that with the officiating, but I see that separate from the bachelor party. I'll reach out to the other guys and clarify with them about the party. Husband responded, generally a good rule of thumb to not openly and unsolicited talk about a bachelor party to people not invited. Now after this Melanie texted me, hey, your husband said you were upset about the bachelorette stuff and I just wanted to talk it through. I did say I would love for you to come on the bach if we decided to expand it to others out of the bridal party. Which I originally had every intention of doing, and I stand by that. I told a couple of my other friends the same thing. We did a PowerPoint night to pick where to go for the bach. Everyone chose a location and mocked up a pitch. The winner wasn't my first pick, but I cared more about it being a shared experience where people had a say where we were going because they're committing to spend a lot of money. While researching Airbnbs and activities, it became clear that it wasn't a place to host big groups. The bridal party including me is 7 people, so while yes I originally hoped that I would be able to include other friends and celebrate with you, it just wasn't looking like that was feasible with the location we chose. I was in the wrong for not updating you or anyone else I had mentioned I'd love to have there after I found that out, and that's on me, so I truly apologize for not being more transparent, but it wasn't for lack of not wanting you there. I replied a day later, hey, I've been sitting with this for a while because I didn't want to come off angry. I'm just feeling confused and hurt as this has seemed to be a pattern. First it was the multiple occasions, since 2023, you told me I would be a bridesmaid if you guys ever got back together. Specifically mentioning a girls' night with me, MOH, and bridesmaids, saying that it would be with the would-have been bridesmaids. Then at the restaurant when we hung out I had to ask about it, and when you told me I was not, it was followed up by, I know you're not a bridesmaid but you'll definitely be going to the bachelorette. Like you said, that's more fun and important anyway. You proceeded to list potential plans and cities, and I was excited to celebrate with you. At the next girls' night you again reiterated my attendance and the different places that were nixed. Again, I was excited. I then heard nothing and learned on Instagram I wasn't invited when the officiate posted the countdown on her story, and both you and MOH reshaped it. I thought maybe you hadn't invited me yet because we had been busy with baby and dog, had emergency surgery, but as time went on I realized what was happening. It is your wedding and obviously you can do whatever you want. You don't owe me or anyone an invite to anything. If these things hadn't been mentioned multiple times I wouldn't expect it, be upset, or anything. The goalpost just keeps moving and it's hurtful to be told all these things, get my hopes up, and then they don't happen and I don't even get the decency of a conversation. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, I just need to be honest about how all of this has felt from my side. That was sent on May 20th and haven't heard back. We only got the save the date and booked the room they have reserved for friends and family, which can be cancelled. Thank you all for your support. Honestly, I have felt so bad about this and knew Reddit wouldn't hold back if I was the Aholi. Top comments. Commenter 1, NTA, this girl does not want to be your friend. She treats you terribly. You deserve to be treated so much better than how she treats you. Commenter 2, Honestly, I understand venting your frustrations to her, you're honest about your hurt, but she probably doesn't care. Sometimes it's good to just not give others more of our energy. I wish you the best of luck on you and Adam's journey together, but this friendship has began to feel very one-sided and I think I'm gonna take a step back. Commenter 3, the bride is not your friend. Her husband and your husband might be friends, but she is not your friend. Honestly, stop investing any time or energy in this couple. Don't hang out with them. Don't go to the wedding. Certainly don't go to the shower. It doesn't sound like your husband is invited to the bachelor party, either. He is officiating but not attending the party. I'm sorry, but that is just really weird. If someone is close enough to be asked to officiate, they are certainly close enough to attend the bachelor party. Let's be real, these people like to hang out with you guys sometimes, but they do not view you as friends. More like acquaintances. Don't invest any more time in them. Think about whether or not you actually want to go to their wedding and spend the time and money doing that, purchasing a gift, etc. if they couldn't even be bothered to be upfront, honest and treat you like a friend. And I suspect you dodged a bullet by not being asked to be a bridesmaid. She sounds insufferable. Commenter 4, you both just need to step away from these people. Your husband should just decline any part in the wedding and then decline attending as a guest. Then block them and find actually friends. Stories number 23. Wibta, if I got my SAL the same baby gift. About a year ago for the birth of my 28F daughter, my SAL 25F got my husband and I a star map of the night sky, the exact time and date our daughter was born. We absolutely love the gift and have it hanging in her room to this day. SIL gave birth today and Wibta for giving her a star map for her son's birth. We love ours, but don't want to offend by possibly resifting. Update. Wibta, if I regift my SIL's gift back to her. For the few that saw this, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the feedback. I didn't feel like I was going to be an awful person by gifting something that, while wasn't original, I genuinely loved receiving and found was such a thoughtful idea. I really like my SIL, so having the confidence that I wasn't going to mess up this relationship helped. Thank you. I ended up talking to my other BL's girlfriend at the time and we decided to get the star chart together. When we gave it to SIL, she loved it and had said how she was hoping she'd get one too. The three of us ended up talking and decided to get star charts for each other for kids' births as a family tradition. I now have 3 charts, proudly displayed in their rooms. The SIL in question has 2, with maybe one more. And the girlfriend was upgraded to wife status last year, so maybe someday. For those who asked, I get my posters from the night sky. Anyway, thank you everyone. Stories number 24. Aita for not punishing my son for making fun of his sister for wetting her pants. My husband 40M and I 38F have 2 amazing kids, 10M and 7F. Our son's birthday was a couple days ago and the gift he was most excited to receive was the video game Dying Light. He heard about it from a friend and was really excited to try it out. It's a video game about zombies and he loves anything zombie related. Today he was playing the game in our living room when his sister came downstairs and unfortunately she walked in during a pretty scary part. This part of the video game scared her so bad that she peed her pants. When her brother saw that she had peed her pants, he started laughing at her and said, "Haha, you peed yourself, you're a big baby." I went in and asked what was the matter and saw that my daughter had wet herself. I asked her what happened and she said that there were scary monsters in the video game her brother was playing and they were so scary and she started to cry. I then comforted her and took her upstairs to calm her down. Later my husband came home from running an errand and asked what our daughter was so upset about. I explained what happened to him and he asked what punishment I gave our son. I told him I didn't punish him. This made my husband very upset. He asked why I thought it was okay for our son to bully his sister. I said I didn't think it was a big deal, but he insisted otherwise. My husband has been very upset with me since and claims that I should have punished our son right then, but now since I didn't, he will look like the bad guy if he punishes him for making fun of his sister after I did nothing. Edit. Okay, I apologize to my husband for letting our son's mean comment slide. I understand that it needs to be addressed. My husband and I are about to have a talk with our son about why what he did was wrong and he needs to apologize to his sister. Many of you got the idea I wanted to just make my husband do that on his own, but no, we're both going to talk to him. And to all the people saying I shouldn't let my son play the game, I mean, you can keep commenting if you want and I might respond, but my son will still be allowed to play the game. Stories number 25. My coworker pretended to be British for 3 years, then forgot which accent they were using. This is one of those things I wouldn't believe if I didn't witness it myself. We hired this guy a few years ago, let's call him Dan. On his first day, he came in with this very proper London accent. Like, textbook BBC newsreader vibes. People asked where he was from, and he casually said, "Oh, just outside of London." Cool, whatever. Fast forward 3 years. Dan has built a whole personality around being the British guy. He'd say things like, "Fancy a cuppa," and "bloody hell," unironically. People asked him British stuff all the time and he'd always have answers. Some of it felt off, but nothing too wild. Then last week, in the middle of a completely normal conversation, he just switched. Not even slightly. Fully American accent. Someone goes, "Wait, what happened to your accent?" And Dan just froze like he got hit with the blue screen of death. He tried to backpedal with, "Oh, I've been here so long, it slips sometimes," but it was too late. The jig was up. Turns out, another coworker found his old Facebook and he's from freaking Indiana. Never even been to the UK. Now HR is involved because apparently someone complained he was falsifying identity. I don't even know what to make of this. Who commits to an accent for 3 years at a corporate job? Have y'all ever seen someone lie that deep just to be more interesting at work? Stories number 26. Aita for refusing to apologize to my MIL after saying, "FK this," and walking out of her house. So, me and my husband have been together nearly 11 years, married for 8. We've got 2 lovely kids, 7 and 8, and honestly, we're really happy. Good relationship, stable home, great relationship with my family. But his mother? A whole different story. Things were fine when we first got together, she loved me. But the moment we moved 17 minutes, yes, 17, down the road to a different town, everything changed. She became cold, passive-aggressive, and borderline hostile. Some examples over the years, honestly it's endless, ignored me, and my family, on our wedding day, didn't even bring a gift. When our 9-week-old baby was in ICU on a ventilator, my husband told her to ask me for details about the consultant's update. Her response: "Who? No birthday or Christmas gifts for years, except 1 year when I got an airline freebie toiletry bag already opened." Constant belittling. Called me an unfit mother on Facebook. Claimed I have no career, despite the fact I'm a university lecturer and finishing my PhD. She makes zero effort with our kids. Last time she took them out for a day, my daughter was still in a pram. Meanwhile, my husband has a brilliant relationship with my family. We do holidays, BBQs, and his bond with my dad is really special. They go for drinks, hang out, all of it. Naturally, this has made MIL jealous, like unhinged level jealous. Despite it all, I've tried. I've invited her round. Kept the peace. But my husband has said he doesn't even want them at the house anymore. That says a lot. On top of everything, she started copying my style. I wear a Western country look, think cowboy boots, fringe jackets, etc. Not mainstream at all. And she now wears exactly the same stuff. For decades she dressed the same, and now she's mirroring me. It's just weird. Anyway, the breaking point. We recently chose to attend my cousin's 30th birthday party instead of his sister's last-minute 23rd piss-up. My cousin's event had been in the diary for 6 months, it was family-friendly, and our kids were invited. His sister's wasn't. The night before our holiday, we popped round to MIL's to drop off cards and gifts. Out of nowhere, she started having a go at me, accusing me of not seeing his sister as real family and throwing shade, again, about our closeness with my family. After years of taking her crap, I finally snapped. I just stood up, said F***K this, and walked out. My husband hasn't spoken to her since. His siblings' reaction. What's she done now? So it's not just me, now she's acting like I need to apologize. I've held it in for 9 years, never blown up. This was my one snap. I've had enough. So. Aita for finally saying, "Fuck this," and walking out. Stories number 27. 33M, caught my girlfriend, 30F, in a lie by omission, not sure if it's a sign of something more. I've been with my GF for just over 2 years now. We've both been through a lot, changes in careers, a couple of moves, each on our own, and now we're finally in a good spot. She just moved into her brand new home, and I have a nice new condo. We're talking about moving into one and renting the other, although lately that conversation has cooled off. She is a doctor and spends a lot of time at the hospital working, and time at coffee shops with other doctors reviewing notes, studying new material, keeping up to date, lectures and other things that they need to review and keep on top of. There are always been one who has struck me the wrong way. Another male doctor who is 36 who she studies, his is fit, tall, single, and from what I can tell, attractive. We'll call him Tom. My GF has always been open with when they meet. He has asked her out on a date on several occasions, including just this weekend. She has always told me about that, and even shown me the messages if asked. My ex of 8 years cheated on me for months, so I do have some demons to face, and she understands. I'm pretty good at keeping it in check, but Dr. Tom has me on my guard as this is the way it started with my ex. Well, she has enrolled in a dodgeball league on Monday nights, starting tomorrow, as I still go to class and she needs something to do. She hasn't said much about it other than she was planning on going alone and making some new friends, she said that weeks ago. This is where it changes. Today we were laying on her couch, she was asleep and a text previews came in from Dr. Tom, "What time is dodgeball tomorrow? I'm looking forward to it." She never told me she invited him, and she knows my radar is up on him. I prodded it a bit by asking, "Hey, are you still going to dodgeball tomorrow?" But just a basic, "Yep," is all I got. I might just be paranoid, but this seems very much unlike her to keep this from me. Should I be concerned? TLDR, GF is hanging out with a guy who has asked her out several times, she hasn't said anything to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So, she may not have mentioned it to you because, as you say, your radar is up on him. I'm not sure what that means, but if you've spoken to her about him before, she may feel like she can't mention him to you without you getting upset, or thinking something is going on when there isn't. Alternately, there could be something going on. The fact that he's asked her out on a date on several occasions is troubling. Does he not know she's married or does he just not care? Either way, she should care, and she should have put the kibosh on him asking her out a long time ago. If he kept doing it afterward, that should bother her, too, because he doesn't respect her boundaries or her relationship. Ultimately, though, it's dodgeball. Maybe she heard about it from him, and that's why he's involved. Or maybe she doesn't see it as a big deal, because there's a ton of other people involved. You need to ask her what's going on directly, instead of trying to hint her into telling you. Reply. Correct, although they do work at the same hospital, he actually works FT at another clinic and only on call at this one. As far as I know, they have only worked together a couple of times in the past year. Most of their communication happens when they meet to study, sometimes in groups, but often just one-on-one at a local coffee shop. I don't believe there is too much crossover for them in the workplace, and if there was she would tell me about harassment. From what I can tell, the attention he has given her hasn't been necessarily unwelcomed by her. Commenter 2. She can't choose her interactions with Tom at work, but she can definitely choose her interactions with him outside of work. She knows your radar is up, but she might feel that she didn't want to upset or worry you, which is why she made that omission. Have a talk to her about your concerns and let her know. I don't think you are coming off jealous doing that. Ask her to put her in your shoes. If it was you doing an activity outside of work with a girl that has put the moves on you a few times, how would that make her feel? I don't think it's fair for her to spend time with someone who doesn't respect the relationship she's in, asking her out on a date when he knows she's in a relationship. Even if they genuinely just get along well and are good work friends, she still needs to know how you feel and you would like her to be open about it. She needs to know that you feel that he's crossed the line with her and she needs to address it with him. She might also be liking his attention for some reason, but she needs to hear from you that that attention is detrimental to your relationship with her. It's not that she can't have friends, but she can't choose to spend more time with someone who is giving her inappropriate attention and hiding it from you. She needs to set the boundaries as respect you and the relationship that you are both in. Reply. Thanks, this is a good summary of what other posters had put together. She hasn't set any boundaries with him, and instead of no, she always gives him an excuse. I know she thinks he is a good guy, but she hasn't given him defined boundaries as far as I know. We just had an evening phone call and I casually asked about him constantly asking her out, as we just talked about him the other day, and she said that she understands and will tell him to go fly a kite. But she again didn't bring up dodgeball at all. My insecure mentality wants to just show up to dodgeball tomorrow dressed to play and see if they're there, show up together. My sane mind says to leave it alone and trust that she will make the right decision. Update. We talked, I told her about what I found and how I felt about Dr. Tom. It was a tough conversation. She wasn't happy that I saw anything on her phone, but that wasn't the issue that brought it all down. She felt that after 2 years that the trust should be concrete and that it shouldn't have even been an issue. She showed me everything her and Dr. Tom had ever talked about and that they were just colleagues. We talked a lot over the past few days, and tonight she came over when I got off of work and said that she just couldn't be with me until I could learn to trust 100% again. Even though it was my demon and I know I needed to work on it, she didn't want to be in the way of my becoming a better me. I need to work on myself and that she just can't do us anymore. She cried, she brought my house keys back, and told me that no matter what she'll always be here. She cried some more, then she left. TLDR, we broke up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. While it is possible she was put off by your insecurities, something is not sitting right. The fact that you had voiced your concerns about this Tom guy and she still decided to be sneaky is just shady. He has disrespected your relationship by trying to date her and she has decided to hang out with him outside of work. You are better off without her. It's not a new relationship, you communicated with her but she decided to keep secrets even though she knew it could hurt you and raise red flags. Shame on her for making it seem like your insecurities are to blame. Reply. I know, my friend kind of told me the same thing, she pushed the breakup on me for my problems, but instead didn't really acknowledge anything else. Commenter 2. Honestly, I think you may have dodged a bullet. This guy has asked her out more than once, knowing that she was in a relationship, and she dumps you because this is your problem. I think your concerns were entirely valid and your original post didn't strike me as pathologically insecure. It sounds like she used this as an excuse to break up with you without seeming like the bad guy, with the whole, I don't want to get in the way of you becoming a better you. I could obviously be wrong, but that's the impression I'm getting from this. Commenter 3. She basically just said, it's not me, it's you. Yikes. Commenter 4. We only have OP's side of the story, to be honest, and he is freaking out because this guy who is in all her social circles is asking about the game. I mean, she turned him down, and she likely can't control socializing with him. She's been open with her media and allowed her so to look at all of her messages despite the fact that she clearly does value her privacy. We haven't heard what the past 2 years have been like for his so. So maybe she was carrying on an affair, or maybe she expected OP's jealousy to eventually subside and it didn't. Hard to say from what we get here. I will say this. Managing workplace-schoolplace guys who have interest in me is something I require a lot of latitude on, and I really would not appreciate my so putting pressure on me to do things that would make my workplace uncomfortable, especially if we're talking about a guy there's less than zero chance of me being into. Guys do not understand how fraught rejections and boundary drawing can be and the impact that can have on, your career. I have colleagues like this who I am in contact with. I get messages like this and I ignore them. It's a better work choice. If I really shut down a guy and tell him to straight up not speak to me or contact me on social media, he's likely to argue with me about it or push my buttons or take it out on me at work or start rumors or pour poison into people's ears about me, which could affect my career options. In a way, a guy who thinks he has a theoretical shot at you but is constrained by the fact that you haven't so is easier to deal with than a guy who has no such illusions. I realize this makes me sound calculating and I am. But I have also never cheated. OOP explains why the Dr. Tom incident is different from having male friends. Yes, of course. Believe it or not, I haven't had any jealous or controlling issues with her. She has a lot of male friends who I've never worried about. I have never accused her of anything before Tom came into our lives. We actually had things really good for a long time. It was in my past she was bothered with, as I had a very active 20s, whereas she was in med school and really only dated very casually. I've never had a reason to question her before Dr. Tom, and I know you probably won't believe it, but her behavior when they started talking was different, and my radar went off. Dr. Tom, however, came out of nowhere a couple of months ago. I never even thought about it until she told me the first time he asked her out. Then I started to get anti-trusting, which was my fault. As he continued to do so, I continued to push, which again was my fault. Finally I did what I shouldn't have, and that was the end of it. If she ends up with Dr. Tom, I'll feel shitty, but at least I'll know I was right. If she doesn't, I fucked up big time. Stories number 28. Aita for cutting contact with my dad after he threw cake in my face on my birthday. 28F, never celebrated my birthday ever since I was a kid, and this was the last ever time I planned to celebrate it in my paternal home. My family is very traditional etc. and invited the whole gang, aunts, cousins, great-grandparents, the works. My family also has a general disregard of me, and the way I celebrate anything, as my idea of fun excludes the music they like and the foods they like and the stupid games they enjoy, and decided to think about me for one single time. Instead of helping me organize, they did everything in their power to have their way. Cancelled my catering, they said they would pay for it as a gift, and cooked all the super traditional foods I not only hate, but most cause me severe bloating, that I can't eat anything for days if I consume. Our foods are very only and creamy, so I basically could only eat a salad the whole time. I shut up for the sake of family, as always. The cherry on top of the cake was when the cake was brought, which was a traditional Russian honey cake, 10 layers. It was super expensive and it took me half a day to actually find a bakery that makes it, as this country has no connections to Russia or Slavic countries at all. I asked everyone in advance not to do the weird cake where they dip their fingers in the cake and smash it in each other's face. They seemed to have no issues with it. When I blew the candles, my dad pushed my face into the cake. It wasn't violent or rough, but I was unprepared and went right through it. My Medivic ruined. My makeup ruined. My hair ruined. I was humiliated. I picked up my things and left. Haven't spoken to them since. They OFC blew up my phone with unanswered calls and messages asking me where I've gone and telling me how rude and inappropriate it was that I disappeared. Eventually my dad figured it out and sent me something in the lines of, "I don't know what happened. We're worried about you. I told everyone something happened and you had to leave urgently. If this was about the cake, that would be really immature of you." I blocked everyone. I'm wondering whether I overreacted or not, but honestly I'm so tired of these pranks and jokes that revolve solely around humiliating someone, usually a woman. Never seen anyone playing this game against the guys. It's always the guys and girls shoving cake into girls' faces. Or in this case, shoving mine into the cake. I decided to stay NC with my family over this. Stories number 29. What are my next steps after I, 42M, caught my wife, 39F, in a compromising position with my friend, 43M? This is not a clear-cut cheating story, so I'm truly at a loss. My wife and I have been married for 15 plus years with kids. About 2 years ago, we started hanging out with this other couple we met through our school. We've gotten really close. I consider the guy my friend, and my wife also hangs out with his wife. When the four of us hang out with our families, there's usually a good amount of alcohol involved. The event in question happened right before Mother's Day, and I still haven't digested it. We were hanging out with the other couple as usual, when my wife went to the kitchen with the guy to refill their drinks. I had a mostly full glass and was looking pretty comfy on the couch, still talking to the other wife, when I decided to go join them in the kitchen for whatever reason. When I got there, I saw my wife with her back against a wall laughing, with my friend leaning over her, his mouth maybe kissing her neck or really close to it. They were both pretty drunk. I immediately screamed, "WTF is going on?" They jumped apart looking shocked to see me, and my wife kept saying she could explain, etc. It was like out of a shitty Lifetime movie. We were all talking over each other, and then I started heading to the car, grabbing my kids on the way. I was about to leave her, but she climbed in the passenger seat anyway. I wasn't going to kick her out of the car with our kids in the back, so we drove home in silence. When we got home, my wife started crying. She told me that this is what happened. Weeks ago, he started doing random small things around her while we all hung out if my, and his wife's, back was turned. He would grab her hand or touch her hair. The most they spoke about it was that she said he should really stop doing these things, but then kept letting him or finding ways to be alone momentarily with him. She claims they never communicated by text, phone call, never met up, and never even kissed. In retrospect, I do think he was subtly flirting with her, but I thought at the time that it was the usual gentle teasing we would all do as friends. I asked her if they were going to kiss that night if I hadn't caught them, and she says she's not sure, but she may have let him. She says she's not even physically attracted to him, but enjoyed the validation she got from him putting these moves on her. She has had a long history of requiring a lot of reassurance that she's attractive and that I am still into her. She immediately let me have her phone and searched through it, and I didn't find any texts between them. I asked her if this would have led to sex, and she adamantly said no. The worst thing then was that I asked her if she fantasized about him when she was with me or getting herself off. She said no to thinking of him while with me but admitted yes to thinking of him when alone. Needless to say, I'm cutting off all contact with my friend. I told my wife I'm thinking about divorce and she's begging me to reconsider. She's telling me we will go to counseling, I can track her location, all the things. This really sucks. I don't know how I can get past this betrayal. I don't know how I can trust her again. But I also don't know how I can leave what I thought was an amazing marriage and give our kids a broken home without attempting to try to work through this. I can't talk to any of my friends or family about this because it makes me sick, and I feel embarrassed that I let this happen. It's been hard pretending to be happy on Mother's Day for the sake of our kids. I can't sleep and have barely eaten. I can't concentrate at work. At home, my wife just cries all the time. What the fuck do I do? TLDR, I caught my wife about to kiss a friend while we were hanging out. She says she accepted his advances because she liked the validation, but would have stopped it before it led to sex. She appears remorseful and is begging me to not leave her, and I don't know what to do. ETA, I just want to clarify one point since I've had many comments addressing this. We do not drink and drive. One of us is usually the DD and has like one glass of wine with food, while the other three get a little sloshed. Just needed to say this so people didn't keep assuming we're putting kids in danger. I was not drinking the night this happened, and I'm sorry for not clarifying this before. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you didn't catch them and they would have done more and more each time until finally meeting up alone. I don't know what you do here to be honest. Obviously the friend has to go and blocked everywhere. What did the guy's wife do about all of this? Reply, I honestly wasn't watching the other wife that carefully while this was going down because I was freaking out. She also seemed shocked but didn't say much, just kept repeating what happened. I watched my wife send her one text since then saying, I'm sorry for not stopping this and my part in everything, but she didn't respond. I have not tried to reach out to her myself. Did the other wife find out? Reply, yeah, I replied earlier, but she also came in shocked when she heard me yelling. But she hasn't responded to my wife's apology text since, so I don't know how much she knows. I don't know if I'm ready to reach out to her either. She may not want to hear from me or might have heard a different version of events from her husband. Commenter 2, she's lying to you. No one has sexual fantasies about someone they're not at least semi-interested in. You can be flattered by interest and make it clear it's not welcome. She did nothing of the sort. She encouraged it. And got off on the sneaking around, which means she got off on lying to you. Commenter, she explained that she isn't physically attracted to him and wouldn't imagine herself actually having sex with him as he is in real life. He was more of this vague presence in her fantasy that was just obsessed with her and made her feel desired. You're right, she didn't stop him as she should. She said she got off on the high of feeling wanted. Update, sorry, it's taken me a while to get back to this. It's been really busy, as you can imagine. I appreciate all the support and advice for this difficult situation. Shortly after the original post, I did reach out to the other wife, asking if we could meet in person or at least talk on the phone to see if the stories matched. She pretty much responded with a version of, "We are planning on moving forward as a family and talking about it with you will not be conducive to that process for us." She wished me peace or some BS, and then both of them blocked both of us. I know there's other ways to contact them, but I'm not gonna be that guy. We decided to start marriage counseling and have an appointment set up this week. I also finally convinced my wife to get therapy for her issues as well, but her appointment isn't until later in June. She is still being transparent and asking whatever question I have about anything. She is still maintaining that all she would ever do is flirt and a few touches here and there while we were all hanging out, and would never have met up with him outside. She says she enjoyed the thrill of being found desirable by someone that was taboo. It got to her head. I looked through her phone many times again, more thoroughly, and I didn't find any deleted texts, apps, etc. I even looked up websites on how to catch cheating on phones and followed their advice on how to search. I hate to disappoint most of you who commented, but I am trying to give her this benefit and move forward with our marriage for now, as she has been an amazing wife otherwise. I do know that I may never have 100% of the truth. I'm not an idiot. I don't trust her fully, but maybe one day I can get there. Here's the tricky part. Our kids are in the same elementary school as theirs, and my wife is involved in the PDA, so there's a guarantee we will run into this family. It's actually pretty surreal to go from being such good friends to no contact. My wife has begged me to not divulge any of this to anyone at the school or mutual friends, as she doesn't want our kids to lose friends or our family to be stigmatized. I do see her point about that. But I did follow your advice and spoke to a couple of my best friends from before about what transpired. They were shocked she would do this, but supportive when I told them I'd try to forgive her. I'm thinking of getting a therapist though. I still don't want to tell anyone in my family because they can keep grudges and would use this against her forever. Finally, I'm sorry I made the original post seem like we were all alcoholics or something, but that's really not the case. We would get together and drink 2 to 3 times a month, and it was our main social drinking outlet. We would have maybe 3 to 4 drinks each except for the one who was the DD. We don't drink when it's just the two of us, except for date nights. We don't do weed or other drugs. I just mentioned the alcohol to give context that they were both under the influence when this happened, not to give an excuse or serve as the focus in the story. Thank you again for all the comments. It was helpful to have a place to go to initially for this shit before I was ready to talk to people. It still feels like my life has turned upside down, and I still am hoping it's all a bad dream, but I think I've accepted it better now. Relevant comments. I don't want to keep repeating myself in multiple comments, so I'll try to respond to the main concerns brought up here. My wife is facing consequences. She is a wreck, barely eating or sleeping. At least on the outside, she seems to be suffering. I heard her tell her sister on speakerphone what she did, and she couldn't keep it together during the conversation. They were both crying. Her parents may know too, as she didn't tell her sister to keep it a secret. It was also her idea to get therapy for herself, but we couldn't find an appointment until weeks later. The school year is over, and she will also take a step back from as many activities with the PDA next year, only attending things both of us can make. I just mentioned that to share that we as a family will run into theirs at some point. I am in agreement with her that I don't want her to be publicly shamed in our school and neighborhood. If anyone else has kids, they may partly understand why. They often go over to play with neighbor kids at will. It's a typical suburb with gossipy moms. I know for sure this shit would bleed over and affect their friendships. I am not willing to allow our kids to pay any price for her actions. I'm not bearing any burden of protecting her image, because I also have no desire to shout this from the rooftops. It's enough to me that some of my friends and her family know. She knows I haven't ruled out divorce. She is giving me immediate access to her phone on demand, but I'm not really using that privilege now. I'm planning on waiting weeks and months in case you all are correct and she is waiting for time to pass to get more comfortable, and then I will really go nuts with stalking her. Maybe even hire a PI. This part is probably not the healthiest thing to do to reconcile, but I'm hoping it can be like that only temporarily until I feel better. I may never feel 100% better, but I do know any further indiscretion will be a complete deal breaker. I'm not sure the other wife's silence necessarily means more happened. From what I know of her, she's in general someone who wants to bury issues instead of facing them, and has before scolded my wife of picking fights with me over what she thinks are trivial things. One thing I will mention that I haven't yet. The image of what my wife looked like when I caught them was burned into my brain. When I found her leaning against the wall and him about to kiss her neck, she didn't look aroused. She was giggling, her face similar to how it looks when she's being tickled or something. Her arms were straight down her sides and not on him. At least this picture doesn't paint her as the aggressor. This shit is hard. It's easy to just say, divorce, when you're not the one married forever with small kids. It's easy to be convinced more happened, but at this point, I have no proof of anything beyond what my wife's telling me. Commenter, how are you going to handle interactions between the children? I'm guessing they will tell their kids to stop being friends and even talking to your kids. That is the where your wife really screwed over your family going forward. The kids will be hurt. Teachers and parents are going to pick up on the relationship tension and make assumptions about an affair happening. Once people comment to your former friends, what are they going to say? What are you going to say? Reply, we told them that we had a disagreement with them and won't be going over there anymore, but said they can still be friends and play together at school. That's it so far, and we will play the rest by ear. Yeah, I understand people may hear of it and make assumptions, but friends fall out over many other things. Stories number 30. Wibta if I turned down my ex's settlement offer and forced him out of his home. I, F, 32, am divorced from my ex, M, 38. During the divorce process, he agreed to pay me $250K for my share of our house. The court gave him until June of last year to pay me the full amount. He paid me $210K and said he would get me the rest as soon as he was able. We both put $100K down when we were married to get the house in the first place. He signed a legally binding divorce agreement. I last spoke to him in December about when I could expect the rest of my money. He told me he didn't know. He did say that he wanted me to come pick up the rest of my stuff I had in the old storage shed. I told I could get it when I got back into town after the holidays and he told me no, get it before January 1st. I cancelled my trip home to see my family just for him to take a hammer to everything and leave it in the street Christmas morning. That's when I went to my lawyer and filed contempt charges. He was already in violation of the agreement, but now I'm suing for interest, legal and damages. His lawyer has approached mine with a settlement offer. Everything I'm asking for, paid in 6 months. He will return some things he chose to keep rather than smash. If I decline, he will have 30 days to sell the house. I don't want to make a decision in anger. He loves that house and wants to die there. I don't need to force the timeline for the money, but he has dragged this process out for years, being a no-show to court, ducking service, refusing to sign the papers, requesting continuances for hearings, etc. Maybe he will pay me in 6 months and he can still keep the house, but part of me wants him to finally suffer the consequences of blowing off his legal responsibilities. I want to decline the offer, but I feel like that is coming from a place of hate. If I decline, would I be the asshole? Stories number 31. My girlfriend took her life while I was on the phone with her. This happened a little over a year and a half ago. My girlfriend and I were close for so long, had a wonderful relationship online and met in person several times. She was everything I ever wanted for so long. A best friend with shared interests, great humor, beautiful, smart as hell, and most of all loving to no end. Unfortunately, something happened that I felt betrayed my trust, but looking back on it makes it feel so easy to forgive. I broke up with her over the phone while she was back home, and she decided to take her life then and there. I didn't realize she had already prepared for this, but she must have had a feeling that it would happen with how things had been with multiple arguments and such. I know truthfully deep down if she hadn't taken her life I just needed space and I would have forgiven her, we'd have a whole life together. She came from a terrible family and had a rough life, to her I was finally the love she was seeking for so long. If I was only more mature like I am now, it never would have happened. If I was just quicker to call the police, or if I was prepared, maybe she'd be here. If I thought to call her mom, even maybe she could have been faster than them. I could have done so many things differently to prevent the world losing such a wonderful person that was just beginning to blossom. Till this day, despite the therapy, and the attempts to try and carry on in life without her, I still can't stop feeling such a deep void. Some days are easier than others, some days are dark. It's in the tough times I miss her a lot, when she would be the most comforting presence I could ever dream of. If you ever feel that someone truly, undoubtedly loves you, don't stumble on the little things and lose them. There's nothing more precious in life than that. Stories number 32. Entitled Coworker, reserves the office microwave because of her dietary needs and timing. We have a shared microwave in our office break room. One microwave. First come, first served. Everyone just uses it like normal adults. Until Michelle. Michelle joined our team a month ago, harmless at first until last week, when she apparently decided she has the microwave. I went in to heat up my lunch around 12:35. She was sitting at a nearby table eating a salad. I didn't think anything of it, popped my food in, hit start. Suddenly she goes, excuse me. Did you not see the note? I looked at the microwave. There was a post-it that said in all caps, "This microwave is reserved for Michelle from 12:30 to 1 p.m. due to dietary needs. Please respect this time slot." I asked, "Wait, you wrote this?" Michelle, completely serious, "Yes. I have dietary needs, and I eat a warm meal at exactly 12:45 every day. I can't have delays. It messes with my digestion and routine." I said, "But, you're eating right now. And the microwave was free." She just shrugged and said, "I'm prepping my stomach." I said, "Look, the microwave is shared. You can't just reserve it like this." "Michelle, it's a medical thing. I talked to my nutritionist. If I don't eat at the right time, I get bloated and irritable." "Me, okay, well, it's not in use and I'm not delaying you." She started sighing really loudly and muttering things like, "Some people just don't understand health issues." Later in the week, I found out she had been taking people's food out of the microwave mid-cycle during her slot and leaving notes like, "Please wait until after 1 p.m. I need the microwave more than you do." Eventually, someone reported her to HR after she unplugged the microwave so no one would use it accidentally. HR cautioned her and told her if she repeats that again she won't use the microwave again. Now we all make jokes about whether the microwave is feeling bloated or needs emotional space before lunch. Stories number 33. Aita for blocking my parents from seeing me graduate high school and ignoring all their attempts to contact me. I, 18M, graduated high school last week. I had my grandparents and 2 cousins there who live with me and my uncle and his family. My parents weren't there and I made sure they couldn't watch the ceremony online either by bringing it to the attention of the teacher in charge of all that stuff. On the day of my graduation my parents tried to call my grandparents and my uncle to get answers and info on what was happening but they ignored them. They sent several texts in the days since asking to talk to me and I won't. I still have them blocked. Yesterday my uncle said he got a long rant text from my mom essentially calling me a spoiled brat who showed no gratitude for all they have done for me. So I decided to ask people on Reddit if they agree, and to get the full picture I'll need to provide some context. I have a half-sister who lost her dad a couple of days before I was born. She's 7 years older than me. Losing her dad really fucked her up mentally and it made her extremely bitter and resentful and hateful toward me and my existence as a whole. She was abusive the whole time I lived at home. But when I turned 10 it got worse. She talked about mutilating me, about selling me to traffickers, how she wanted to see me dead and other graphic things. She accused me of taking her dad's life all the time. And she used to grab me, scratch me, pinch me and other things like that. She'd explode with anger around me and it would come from nowhere. One time I ran to my room and locked the door and put a chair in front of it so she couldn't get at me. My parents knew what was going on and they had my half-sister in therapy but it did nothing and they didn't do more to protect me than that. They had me keep it from other family but eventually I told my grandparents, mom's parents, and they reported it to CPS and encouraged me to talk to my school and when I did they got CPS involved too so when I was 11 I was removed from my parents' house and placed with my grandparents. That's where I continued living. My parents tried to talk it all out but my grandparents protected me from hearing their BS excuses. I know my half-sister always treated my dad like shit too but he wasn't being threatened like I was or attacked. The whole thing made me hate my parents in a way. My dad more so because he didn't try to leave with me to keep me safe. He could have once it got that bad even. If I could be with my grandparents why not him? It's not like my half-sister was attached to him or anything. And she was 18 when I got removed. But yeah, that's the context for why I did what I did and I want to know if that makes me TA. Stories number 34. Aita for divorcing my husband for being infertile. I, 29F, have been with my husband, 29M, for 6 years, married for 3. We both come from family-oriented backgrounds and have always wanted kids. We're financially stable and can provide a child an amazing life. We've officially started trying for a baby in early 2023. After months of nothing I started to get worried. I wanted to get our fertility checked then, but he said I was being a worry rat and let's wait a year of trying before we get any testing. A year was in February, and I scheduled our testing then. The results shocked us. We were both ignorant and assumed I was the one with the issue if there was one. I mainly see women talking about being infertile, so it didn't cross our mind it could be something else. The doctor calls us and in one of the worst days of our lives tell us that my husband has a condition called azoospermia, meaning he has no sperm. In his case they say that the surgery to extract directly from his testicle doesn't seem that it will yield high results, but it wouldn't hurt to try. My husband and I were devastated. I wanted us to explore all routes. Him taking the medication and getting the surgery, and if that fails, either a sperm donor or adoption. I understand this is life-changing news, especially for my husband, but since February he's refused to do anything about it. He said he doesn't want to take meds and get the surgery if it will be a waste like the doctor thinks. That using a sperm donor makes him feel emasculated, and he doesn't want to raise my child with another man's DNA, even if it's from a relative of his, and that adoption isn't something he's ever wanted. I have no one to talk to about this in real life since he doesn't want his diagnosis out there. It's been affecting me really bad mentally. There's nothing more I want than to be a mom. I've begged him to go to therapy and he refuses, saying he accepts it. I'm the one that isn't. Every time I try to start a conversation he shuts it down by saying that we will never have a child together, he will never be able to be a real dad, so to move on. I know what I want for myself. That's motherhood. I am willing to go down any avenue to motherhood, but he doesn't want to. I realized this past summer that he's right, we will never have a child together. I had one final conversation with him since he avoids the topic like the plague last night. I sat him down and said I empathize with him about this life-changing diagnosis, and that he doesn't want to get the surgery, which I respect, or use a donor or adopt. But that I want to be a mom and I'm not getting any younger. And if he isn't willing to explore any avenue or go to fertility therapy, then I want a divorce. He broke down saying he can't believe I would be willing to walk away from our marriage over this. That if the shoe was on the other foot he would never leave me for being infertile. He says I'm a horrible person and that I'm punishing him for something he can't control. I told him it's not for being infertile, I can work with that, but it's because he's refusing to go down any route to become a parent, knowing that's something we've both wanted. He says that I never loved him, otherwise I would never contemplate divorce over kids that don't exist yet. He cried about it afterwards and refused for me to console him. I feel so horrible. But what else can I do? Continue begging him to change his mind or speak to a professional? He only wants bio kids and refuses to do the surgery because it's too much prep, daily vitamins, meds, no hot showers, etc. Aita, relevant comments. Commenter 1, kids are sadly a deal breaker for most. I've walked away from many relationships because I don't want them and the other person does. In a way this situation is the same, he's not open to children another way, so sadly your life goals no longer align. It's obviously devastating for you both, but if you stay, you will resent him and probably leave later in life, without an easy path to children then. NTA, and I'm so sorry for you. Commenter 2, just hopping on this top comment to ask, are you really sure he didn't have a vasectomy and has been lying to you this whole time? Asking you to wait a year before seeking out testing, refusing to explore further options for himself and flat refusing even familial sperm donation or adoption just feels suspicious. Or I've been spending too much time on Reddit. That's possible. Reply, I never even considered him getting a vasectomy a possibility. Isn't that something he would need to recover from? I never noticed any signs or discomfort. He also really wanted to have kids, we've spoken extensively. I don't think so. Commenter 3, he refuses to adopt, refuses to look into donor sperm, refuses to try any medical intervention. He refuses to even talk about it. It's not about him being infertile, it's about him being completely unwilling to understand your feelings, much less try to find a compromise to save your marriage. Commenter 4, first off, infertility is a hell of a curveball, and it's clear you're not divorcing him because he's infertile, but because he's essentially slammed the door on all options. That's a big difference. It's not that you're punishing him for something he can't control, you're drawing a line because he's refusing to control what he can. You've got dreams, and he's ghosting them harder than Reddit hides good posts. If he's not willing to roll up his sleeves and fight for your future family, you're not the asshole for wanting to find someone who will. It's time to ask yourself if you should sacrifice your happiness for someone who won't even try. Commenter 5, okay, so I can understand some initial reluctance towards adoption or donors. Not getting to have the life he originally wanted had to have been a blow, even though I think he should at least be willing to consider it at this point 9 months later. But refusing to try the surgery because it's too much prep is honestly bizarre. Like, everything he wants is potentially, even if unlikely, in reach, and he's throwing it away because he doesn't want to take cold showers and eat vitamins. Like, something is wrong with that. It literally makes no sense. Honestly, I'd think twice about staying married to someone who is willing to throw away both of your life goals over something that's small, kids aside. Update, last year and received so much amazing feedback that genuinely changed my life. Since no one in my personal knew what was going on, being able to talk about it and get so much amazing advice was great. A lot of the people in the comments opened my eyes up to the possibility that he was refusing the surgery since that would be the final nail in the coffin. That if it failed that would be the end and that could be the reason he was refusing to do anything. I took some time after posting that to do some self-reflection on the whole scenario and to go out the situation differently. We spoke about it extensively and I told him about how I completely understand his fears in not wanting to do the surgery, but I really want us to try a fertility therapist and we could just do one session, it didn't have to be a deep commitment. He agreed and that therapy session went amazing. We both spoke separately and then together and we did 5 sessions overall. You guys were right. My husband was scared to try anything because he didn't want it to fail. He was pre-rejecting the rejection. He opened up to me about a lot of fears and anxiety about his diagnosis. We deeply connected afterwards and got even closer as a couple. One day I saw vitamins on his dresser and realized he had been taking them without even telling me. I was so happy. We did another sperm analysis and they saw 2 sperm. We were so happy. Then to my complete and utter surprise my husband forwards me an email. He scheduled a consultation for the micro-tease surgery in December. It went well and he was approved for surgery this February. We went in with low expectations and to still be happy at the progress he's made, but they were able to get 3 sperm. My husband and I were ecstatic and couldn't stop crying. Everything went well at his 2-week checkup. Now we're in the process of IVF. I started taking medication to do my egg retrieval right after his surgery and so far I have 12 eggs. Last month we just found out we have 2 embryos. Both healthy, 1 boy and 1 girl. Our implantation date for our daughter was May 1st and I tested positive a few days ago. We are so happy. I am so happy that we were able to get through this bump in the road. This has been amazing. I am so happy my husband's fear and my sadness to his fear was something we were able to get over. We have both extensively apologized to each other, him for shutting down and wanting to give up and me for not being more understanding to that life-changing news. Thank you guys again for all the advice you gave me. Top comments. Commenter 1, this is the best update. So happy for you both. Commenter 2, congratulations to hopefully soon the 3 of you, smiley face. Commenter 3, communication for the win. Congratulations on saving your marriage and your dreams for your family. Commenter 4, amazing. So happy that therapy helped you two communicate and get closer. Congrats and best wishes for a smooth pregnancy. Stories number 35. Entitled cousin demands I give her my car because I don't need it as much as she does. So I, 25M, have an old 2012 Civic. Not flashy, not fast, just reliable and paid off. I've had this car since college. She's been through it with me. Couple dings here and there, but still runs great and I keep it maintained. My cousin, 23F, just got her license, yes, at 23, and she texts me out of the blue asking what kind of car I drive. I told her, and she goes, oh that's perfect for me. Can I buy it off you? I said it's not for sale. She then says, okay, well could you just give it to me? Like, you have a job and live downtown so you don't even need a car. I've been praying for help and I feel like this is God telling me this is the right thing. Excuse me? You think God told you to ask for my car? Do you think I was just waiting for divine intervention to hand over my only vehicle because you decided it's your time to drive? I told her no, again. She started guilt-tripping me saying, you're being really selfish. I'm trying to get my life together and this would help me so much. You have no idea how hard it is. I reminded her I worked 2 jobs in college and ate ramen for a year to afford that damn car. She left me on read, then told the whole family I was hoarding resources. LMAO I drive a Civic, not a Rolls-Royce. Stories number 36. Aita for never asking my dad to sit something out so my stepdad will come. My parents were never officially together. It was just a fling between them and I'm 17F, the result of that fling. So I always had 2 separate homes. I have a brother at my dad's house who's my biological cousin but dad's raised him as his own and we see each other as brother and sister. At my mom's house it's her and my stepdad, who married mom when I was 7. My stepdad doesn't like my dad. He was always jealous of my close relationship with dad but I think he resents that dad has 2 kids and he's sterile. He always tried to turn me into the daughter he would never otherwise have but he wanted that at the expense of my dad. Because my stepdad doesn't like my dad he refuses to show up where dad will be. So when I was in dance and I had anything dance-related happening he wouldn't show. If I had a school play and Dad was going, he wouldn't show. This never really ended and I always asked Dad to be there, so my stepdad never was. I was 14 when my mom and stepdad first asked me if I'd ask Dad to sit out a basketball game I was in so my stepdad could be there. I didn't even want to be in basketball. That was forced by my mom and stepdad. But I was like, if I have to do it, I want Dad to watch me. When they suggested I ask Dad to sit it out I said no. I told them I loved having him at everything. My mom said basketball was mine and my stepdad's thing and I said it was his thing, not mine. They stopped making me play after that. They've asked a few more times since. Both for school and extracurricular stuff. The last time they asked was 3 weeks ago. I got an award on the last day of school, not graduation. My stepdad wanted to come and see me get the award and they wanted to be able to take photos with me at school. So they suggested I ask Dad to sit it out since he was at other ceremonies when I was given awards. I told them I wasn't going to do it and it was up to them to deal with their issues with Dad being there. My last day of school was last week and my stepdad didn't come and neither did Mom. I expected it. She called me a couple of days ago wanting to know why I wasn't more upset about them not being there. I told her I expected it because I knew she was mad I refused to make Dad sit out. She told me I didn't always need to put my stepdad last and I told her if the only way he can feel welcome is if Dad isn't there then he'll never come to anything because I will always want my dad. Mom told me that was such a shitty attitude when my stepdad has been good to me since we met and has tried so hard to be a good dad. I told her that's one of the problems, he's not my dad. My dad is the guy who raised me since day one and who never asked me to choose like my stepdad did. Mom said I was being unfair and I told her she can throw me away if she wants, since I won't coddle her husband, but I'm not going to ever exclude my dad so her husband can be there. For those who'll wonder at custody to make a decision on this. My parents had 50-50 custody of me for most of my life. As in a week with Mom and a week with Dad and switching back and forth. I wanted to move in with Dad full time after the pressure started to exclude him. We went to court and a judge let me reduce my time at Mom's but would not let me choose where to live. So I do 2 weekends and a few extra days at Mom's every month to make up the time I have to spend with her. But my stepdad was not more present and my dad was not some deadbeat. Stories number 37. AIO for breaking up with my girlfriend of 3 years over this. I found out my GF of 3 years has a coworker that expressed interest in her, shot his shot, liked all her pics on Instagram from past, they had messages, and it kept going on for months. She never told me about it. I found out about it and confronted her. At first she lied through her teeth and said she didn't know he was interested in her, then she admitted that he went to her profile, liked a bunch of pictures and her stories and that she knew he was showing her his interest. And she said she didn't tell me because she felt like it was nothing. Then I pressed her and she admitted he messaged her showing interest but they only talked about work stuff. Then I asked her to show me the messages, and she said she deleted them. Mind you, she's always screaming how much she hates cheaters, how much she hates men, etc. Every time someone DMs her she sends me screenshots and tells me she's blocked them. I asked her why she didn't tell me about her coworker and she had no answer. She's a night shift nurse. Aita for breaking up with her because of this. Edit, I never made her send me screenshots when people hit on her or anything like that. That's something she did without me asking. Like she even told me to do the same when I get hit on. Stories number 38. Aita for lying to my roommate about being on a date because she always shows up uninvited. I, 21F, am currently studying for my bachelor's degree and share a room in a shared house with my friend Emma, 20F. Emma is really nice and sweet and we get along super easily as housemates and in general. I also like hanging out with Emma outside of our house friend group. We go on cute little coffee dates, study together in the library, etc. The problem is, while I do love hanging out with Emma, she's also super clingy and is always crashing my plans with other friends when she knows about them. And she almost always knows, because she constantly asks what I've got going on. I've talked to her about this, but every time she brushes it off with something like, "Oh you sorry I was just nearby and wanted to say hi and then someone asked me to stay." She's not lying, someone always says, "You should join us," because it would be weird and rude not to, but she always accepts and the amount she shows up is getting kinda weird. Last night I really wanted my space and time with other friends, so when she asked what I was doing later I told her I had a date with a guy from Tinder, even though really I was going to a bar with some girls from my course. When I got home I could hear her crying. I went to go check on her, and she told me she'd seen one of the other girls' Insta stories with me at the bar and knew I'd been lying about the date to avoid her. I tried to explain I didn't mean to hurt her and just wanted more of my own life, but she just got more upset. Today she hasn't talked to me at all and wasn't at our usual study spot in the library. I know I upset her and I honestly didn't mean or want to, but I don't know what else I could have done. I love hanging out with her, I just need friends and time of my own too. I don't know what to do because Emma never listens when I try to tell her I need some space. MITA. How do I get my space and keep our friendship without being an asshole? Stories number 39. My fiancé's entitled sister tried to force her way into my bridal party and then tried to replan our entire wedding. So something happened during my wedding and I wish to share it here. My fiancé and I are planning a small, intimate wedding. Just our closest friends and family, nothing too over the top. I picked my bridal party carefully, my best friend, my sister, and 2 of my closest cousins. That's it. We didn't include Lena. Not because of anything personal, but because we're not close. She lives in another state, we barely talk, and frankly, she's known for being dramatic and making things about herself. But when the invites went out, I got a long, angry message from her. Wait. I'm not a bridesmaid. I just assumed I was. I already bought a dress for the wedding and everything. I responded kindly and explained it's a small bridal party of people I've known and been close to for years. She said, I'm literally your future sister-in-law. That automatically makes me one. You can't exclude family like that. I honestly thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Lena decided to unilaterally insert herself into all the planning. She created a group chat with my actual bridesmaids without me and started trying to plan the bachelorette weekend in Las Vegas. For context, I don't drink, hate clubs, and had already made plans for a relaxing cabin weekend with my girls. Lena had never even asked what I wanted. Then she sent me a PowerPoint titled, Elevating Your Wedding, Lena's Aesthetic Suggestions. She wanted to change our entire color scheme because the sage green dresses I picked washed her out, and she said we should go with burgundy and gold for a more luxurious vibe. Spoiler, I'm wearing ivory lace in a garden. It would have clashed horrifically. At this point, I'd had enough. I called her and said, Lena, you are not in the bridal party. You're more than welcome to attend, but you need to stop trying to take over. This isn't your wedding. She immediately got defensive. Wow. So now I'm just some outsider. I'm trying to help make your wedding less basic. You clearly don't know how these things work. I stayed calm and said, no. I know exactly how I want my wedding to be. I'm not asking for your approval, and you are absolutely not going to disrespect my boundaries. Fast forward to the wedding day, Lena shows up in a long, dramatic black sequin dress totally out of place and tried to line up with the actual bridesmaids before the ceremony. I had to personally stop her and tell her to sit down, and no, she wasn't walking in with the bridal party. She spent the whole night sulking at a table and telling anyone who would listen that I was controlling, jealous of her confidence, and trying to push her out of the family. Stories number 40. My friend's mom tried to take over my Airbnb reservation because I don't need it as much as her. So I booked an Airbnb for a weekend getaway with a few friends. Chill cabin, nothing fancy, just something we could all chip in for and get out of the city. My friend, we'll call her Jess, asked if her mom could tag along because she needs a break. I didn't love the idea, but whatever, it's a big enough place. Anyway, day before the trip, I get a call from Jess's mom. Not Jess. Her mom. She says she and her boyfriend will be taking the cabin instead of me and my friends because she's been under a lot of stress and young people can travel anytime. She literally expected us to cancel our plans and hand the reservation over to her. I told her that wasn't happening, and she got super passive-aggressive. Kept throwing in, it's just disappointing how selfish young people are nowadays, and I thought you'd be more respectful to someone older. We went on the trip without her and now Jess is barely speaking to me because I embarrassed her mom. Like, am I losing it? I paid for the damn thing. Do some people just hit 50 and think the world owes them free vacations? Anyone else deal with entitled family members of friends? Stories number 41. New coworker just speedrunned herself to a termination. Have you saw worse? I work in a fairly corporate environment in a mid-level job. We had a new hire who came in and for some reason, made every single thing a massive drama despite just walking in the door. She would start to cry, claim that people are victimizing her without ever saying what they are doing. Blatantly stole my work on a project and changed a few fields and fonts in a sheet and claimed that she had streamlined it and she was entitled to 50% credit. She would raise a formal grievance about multiple people in the team for making her feel bad about messing something up when in reality, it had to be addressed and corrected. She felt bad about it and therefore she was the victim. I'm heavily against any workplace bullying, but this was far from that. The final straw seems to have come when she invited herself to an office on the other side of the country and made sexual advances to the senior director, who is married. She's now been fired for misconduct. Have you ever had a colleague like this who basically just crashes out? Stories number 42. Aita for not telling my sister her wedding date was the same as mine. F33, got married back in 2013. My sister, 27, was a bridesmaid and a big part of my special day. It was a perfect experience, albeit hot. In fact, it was the hottest day of the year. But, while our event was indoor-outdoor, our venue was air-conditioned, and everyone stayed perfectly comfortable. The next few years were absolute torture. We tragically lost one of our siblings and then a year later, our mother. That tore a lot of the family apart, except for us sisters. We bonded even more, me being the oldest and only mother in the group. I became a large voice of reason for my sisters. They called me all the time looking to dish, sob, or ask advice, and I was always there for them. The youngest of us was married last year. For a whole year before that, I was helping plan with her. She wanted her wedding to happen right after she got her MD, and so that weekend would, surprisingly, be exactly mine and my husband's wedding anniversary. After going through so much shit with the family deaths and the following family chaos, I learned there were some things that just didn't matter. So when she told me the date, I supported it, and didn't mention that it was my anniversary date. Why should it be just my day? If she wanted it, she could have it. Especially if she was trying to do this in a specific time window. So a whole year goes by, and we make the journey north to the venue. I met at an Airbnb my stepdad was renting, where sister was staying, to drop off some table decorations. Sister runs out, we hug, she grabs my shoulders and very seriously and almost sadly says, "Is this weekend your anniversary?" I sheepishly said, "Yeah." "Why didn't you tell me? It's just a day. I've had it for 11 years, I don't mind sharing." She made me swear a few more times that I didn't mind, and then together we left for the bachelorette party. The wedding was great. Except for the caterer dropping the ball, which was very quickly picked up by our coordinator because she's a total boss bitch. The day went off without a hitch. As for me and my husband, after all the traditional wedding things had happened, we snuck outside to the bonfire, so not to steal the spotlight, and had a little toast just to ourselves. It seems everything went great, so why, a year later, do I suddenly feel guilty? I know this was a specific window she was trying to get for her magical day, and it just happened to be on my anniversary, but I also feel like I trapped her and her husband to always share their special day with us. That wasn't my intention at all. Am I being silly or am I an asshole? Edit, obviously, when I say always share their special day with us, I don't mean physically. Just the idea that they'd be out celebrating and in the back of their mind, knowing it's my special day too. You guys are all so freaking sweet. I will admit that I have been working on my self-value. I used to be a lot worse about that. Stories number 43. My sister is inviting both me and my false accuser to her engagement party. 3 years ago, one of my 21M sisters, 21F friends, 20F, falsely accused me of sexually harassing her. It wasn't just a misunderstanding or anything like that. She blatantly lied about it. She only recently came clean and told the people involved that she made it up. Because of that lie, I lost a lifelong friendship. She made me question my character, and carry shame for something I didn't do. My relationships with both of my sisters were deeply damaged, though thankfully not irreparably. Now my sister is about to propose to her girlfriend, and she's organizing a celebration for afterward. She told me she really wants me there, but she also told me she's inviting the same friend who falsely accused me. She said she understands if I feel uncomfortable and don't want to come. Basically, she told me my presence was optional, while her friends was not. She didn't explicitly say she was choosing her over me, but it still feels like she did. This isn't the first time my sister has prioritized people who hurt me. It's a pattern that's been ongoing for years. Things have been better recently though. We have been rebuilding trust and getting closer. I thought I mattered more, though. I thought things were different now. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but this really feels like a punch in the gut. I don't want to take away from her celebration. I know this moment is about her and her partner, and I am so very happy for them. I just wish I was more important to her. Stories number 44. A call center worker was rude racist to my coworker, so I bullied her until she quit was fired. My coworker is a very sweet little old Asian lady. She speaks with the accent and grammar of someone who spent most of their life speaking a language other than English. She also happens to be incredibly smart, kind, and good at her job as well as a consummate professional. I, however, am not a consummate professional, as you're about to find out. We had been dealing with this phone rep that we had to call as part of our job. Of all the reps, this lady was the hardest to deal with. She spoke with a southern accent that was so thick it was nearly impossible to understand, even for me, and I am a native lifelong English speaker. I don't bring this up because there is a problem with having an accent, but rather to highlight the hypocrisy of the situation, asked a multitude of extra questions none of her counterparts asked, and required extra steps for us to look up things for her. She also wasn't the nicest. She was snarky, terse, and generally unhelpful. I complained about her a couple of times, but nothing was done about it. One day my coworker had her on speakerphone, and I overheard the way she was talking to her and boy. I was not happy. Somehow my coworker could understand her better than I could, so tell me why this chick was talking to my coworker like she was the dirt on the bottom of her shoe. It was in the way she repeated things verbatim if my coworker didn't give her exactly the answer she wanted, answers that she oftentimes already knew but still asked for just to be a pain, sighed and groaned like she was in abject misery, refused to answer my coworker's questions, and the tone of utter disgust and disdain in her voice. This lady was obnoxious to me and to others who I'd talked to about her, but downright repugnant to my colleague. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, everyone else I worked with except my one Asian coworker sounds white American on the phone, and none of us had received that level of disrespect. There was a pattern. I determined that this lady was being racist towards my coworker, and that even if that wasn't her motive that she was a piece of shit for talking to literally one of the sweetest and most competent people I know that way. Thus began my campaign. I knew I couldn't prove that she was anything but generally bad at customer service, and nobody seemed to care about it enough to do anything about it. Therefore I set out to make her job as hard as possible. I started taking all the calls that had to go through her when I was on shift, and I would drag the calls out as much as I could. I would put her on hold, pretend I was fumbling around for information, speak over her and give her more information than she asked for but really slowly, go on deranged and off-topic tangents, anything to waste her time and always with the sweetest and cheeriest tone I could. She went from snarky and mean to anxious and desperate. I assumed they had turnaround times to meet. I also continued to file complaints about her inefficiency and rude demeanor, and discreetly encouraged others who worked other shifts to also slow their calls with her down. This week I discovered she no longer works at that call center when I went to file another complaint and was told that she's no longer being supervised by the person the complaints were being routed to. No telling whether or not she left of her own volition, or was transferred to another department. It explains why I haven't had to deal with her this week. Either way I call it a victory, or hopefully it was a learning experience for her. Stories number 45. AITJ for dumping my BF after he expected me to pay for everyone on his birthday. My boyfriend planned a birthday dinner for himself at this kinda pricey restaurant. He invited a big group like 12 people, mostly his friends and cousins. I didn't have a say in the guest list or the place, but I was happy to be there for him. I've always have a bit more money than him and I honestly don't mind covering small things here and there. I paid for his birthday cake, and I even got him a gift I knew he'd love. I was fully planning to pay for his meal. That felt fair to me, but when the check came over $600, which is way too high even for me, he just looked at me and said, "You've got it, right?" Like in front of everyone. No warning and no heads-ups. He didn't ask, like he just expected it. I was so caught off guard. I quietly told him I wasn't comfortable paying for everyone, and he got super cold and a bit mad. Said I was making a scene even though I barely said anything. Some people at the table looked just as confused as I felt. I paid for his dinner, left money for the cake, and went home. I cried in the Uber because I felt used. He then texted me saying I embarrassed him and I told him it wasn't okay to put me in that position without even asking. I broke up with him the next day. Now some of his friends are messaging me, calling me selfish. I feel awful, but I also feel like I was treated like a walking wallet. AITJ for breaking up with him. Stories number 46. My 15-year-old daughter was taken into custody. A few weeks ago my daughter, 15, was taken into custody. A majority of what happened was caught on the cameras in the main section of the house. I nor her father were home at the time. I was at work, as well as my husband and my daughter, 15, my other daughter, 18, and her boyfriend, 22, were the only ones home. My two daughters do not get along and the boyfriend just adds to it. In the video you can see him choking my younger daughter. She goes to her room, where he takes a chair and puts it under her door to lock her in there. She does break the door frame by pulling the door and hitting it, and he comes running over there and she throws a Bluetooth speaker at her and hurts his wrist. They call his father, who is an officer 2 towns over, as well as the police. As they're talking to my younger daughter, the boyfriend is shouting and calling her names and grabs a roll of trash bags that were on the counter and throws them at him. The police come, she's taken into custody overnight. This happens around 3 p.m., and when I get home that's when my older daughter tells me what happened. I call, and the only thing they tell me is I can see her in the morning and charges are being filed, but I'm not told what they are. I show up at the courthouse the moment they open. They won't let me see or talk to her. I finally get to see her when she enters the courtroom. They never have her a lawyer to talk to, never got to talk to me or her father, and had to sign and agree to his witness statement. She's been charged with 2 counts of assault and battery, assault with a deadly weapon, and destruction of property. I asked what the weapon was and it was the trash bags, and since it's my house that I own, wouldn't I have to press charges for the door frame being broken? My older daughter's boyfriend told the police she was suicidal when she has never had any mental health issues, so right from the courthouse she was taken to a juvenile home, until someone can come out and search the house and make sure it's safe, and was placed on 6 months probation. I brought up that it was all recorded and they said they already know what had happened. I read over his statement and it was nothing that was shown on the cameras, that also have audio. I have already informed my daughter that he is no longer to come around the house. If she wants to go anywhere she can meet him at the road. I'm just wondering what my options are, cause they're ignoring everything I've said or tried to do, and I feel like half of what was done wasn't even legal. Stories number 47. My husband, 27M, says he has to go on work cruise without me, 25F. Before I start let me just say I am torn. I'm not writing this because I think it's right or wrong. I'm sort of middle of the road, there's parts about it I understand and also parts one don't, so I simply am looking for some other opinions. My husband's work does an annual cruise, where their boss and the company's directors, and executive director all go on a cruise for 5 days. They do some work-related team-building exercises on the cruise and so I obviously don't want him to miss out, especially not when it's for work, like I'm being told. But at the same time they are gonna be swimming with dolphins, going to the Bahamas, drinking, etc. So how much of it will actually be work I'm not sure. Only the executive directors are allowed to bring their spouse, so I'm not invited, and even if I was we have a 2-year-old and 6-month-old. Some of my family and friends feel like it's not appropriate for my husband to go on a cruise for the week and leave his wife and 2 very young kids here, and part of me agrees. But on the other hand my husband has expressed to me that his boss wants him there and that it's a team-building, work trip. Another aspect of this is that it will be a total of 10 of them, half of which are women and most of those women have been extremely disrespectful towards me. They're never very kind, and some have made me pretty uncomfortable. And I don't know if I can entirely blame the women, I think my husband should set a standard of respect when I'm not around. But alas. I just have some anxiety going into this and am unsure if I should keep my mouth shut or talk to my husband about him not going. Though I don't think he'd be willing to do that if I did. Any thoughts? Stories number 48. He robbed an old man, we delivered him straight to the cops. There's an old man called Robert in my village who's been a widower for years. He lives alone on a small farm just off the main road, with chickens, a few goats, a horse, a garden, that kind of peaceful life. He's one of those people everyone calls a saint. He never raises his voice, always has biscuits for the kids, and always helps when someone needs something. When I was a kid, I used to spend afternoons at his place with my friends feeding the animals, running around the trees, and drinking juice from those old school glass bottles. One of those friends was David. A kid who came from a rougher background but was always welcome at the farm, just like the rest of us. Now we're all adults, and David didn't turn out great. He's known for petty crimes, always looking for a quick score. He was kicked out of his parents' house more than once and most people had already cut ties with him. But not Robert. One night, a few days ago, David knocked on Robert's door asking for a place to crash. It was cold, and he said he had nowhere else to go. Robert, as always, let him in. He gave him a warm bed for the night. The next morning, he went to the local market to buy Chocapic cereal and something nice to make breakfast for David, but when he came back, he found David rummaging through a drawer where he kept some savings. Even after being asked what he had put in his pocket, David said no and took off. That broke something in me. Me and another friend who also grew up going to that farm tracked him down and pretended we didn't know anything. I offered him a ride, and he said yes, as we usually do here. But instead of driving him to the center, we drove him straight to the police station. I explained everything to the cops, and they arrested him because he confessed while waiting for Robert to show up. He's now in custody, awaiting trial. I hope justice is served. Robert cried in front of us not because of the betrayal, but because, in his words, I thought you all had forgotten me. That broke my heart so badly. We had stopped visiting as we grew up, just waving instead of stopping by. That made me realize how much of a piece of shit I am too. So now I'm visiting him at least once a month. He may have been robbed that day, but he also got a reminder, not all of us turned out like David. Some of us remember who raised us and who helped keep us off the streets and away from temptation when we were kids. I protect what matters always. Stories number 49. I got the Oxford study accusation for the first time IRL while on a date with a Korean guy. Edit, I should specify that he is Korean American. I was on a date with a guy who is the same ethnicity as me and I was excited since he seemed funny and outgoing. Fictional crushes came up and I said characters like Django, Glenn Rhee, and Arthur Morgan since I've been replaying RDR2. I showed him pictures since he didn't know who I wasn't talking about and he actually had the nerve to roll his eyes at me and said Oxford study. He said something about me being from the suburbs and having banana tendencies too, which showed me he wasn't just joking. The character he brought up, Sue Storm, looks white from what I can tell. I am not a confrontational person and didn't call him out in the moment, but don't you realize we are two Asian people out on a date together? And I'm here because I'm attracted to you. I really don't like how that term devolved from calling out Asian women who uphold negative stereotypes about Asian men to just shaming any Asian woman who happens to like or date a white man. While I get where they are coming from, it's also very possessive and annoying to spout that out for no reason. He sort of turned me off from going out with him again even though he texted me afterwards saying he enjoyed our conversation. This is technically my first real date at 21 years old, but if they're normally that awkward. Stories number 50. My dad physically assaulted me in front of my 7-year-old son and now my parents are suing me for visitation. Location, Nebraska. Last September my dad physically assaulted me in front of my son because I refused to leave my parents' house without him after attempting to pick him up from other care after work. They were just trying to usurp control. I was physically thrown out and locked out of the house. They finally brought him out and I was able to leave with him. Unfortunately, I did not press charges, but I did take pictures of the bruises. I cut all contact with them until they reached out asking for time with him around the holidays. They would not comply with the boundaries laid forth, so they were not allowed to see him. My dad reached out one other time for Easter and I did not respond. I am now being sued for visitation. They are also now suing my ex-husband as well. I have sole custody. Do I even have a case to prevent them from seeing him? I don't even know where to begin. Stories number 51. I-17F got a call from the police about a work incident and want me to come in to talk. Do I go in? I-17F have been working at a local grocery store for 2 years. It's a great place to work and I really would hate to lose my job. This morning I got a phone call from the police telling me they have been made aware of an incident at the grocery store that involves me, and they want me to come into the station to discuss what it's about. I told them that I have a shift this morning. They told me to call in sick and come to the station. The only thing I can think it's about is that I've been taking old bakery items and produce at the end of the days when I'm closing. The food either gets sent away as a donation or thrown in the trash. I always make sure I'm not taking from the donation selection. The manager told me it's okay for me to do this, but I know the owner wouldn't approve. I'm freaking out. Am I going to get charged with stealing? Would I get in this much trouble for taking expired cookies at the end of my shift? I don't even think the owner could prove I've done this. There aren't any cameras at the back room with the garbage. I don't think the manager would tell on me since he tells me and offers me these things. Do I go in? Help. I told the police that I'll see what I can do about work and get back to them. Update. I texted my parents and my mom just called. She told me she called the police and that she's coming to pick me up in a half hour to go to the station. She sounded really upset, but not at me. She told me that I'm not in trouble, but to not even call my work. What is going on? Update. Wow. Thank you for all the advice. I took the initial ones I read and got my parents involved right away. My mom was a boss. I have to think about what I can update and get back to you all later, because it's honestly really bad, like nightmare fuel and legally bad. I'm okay. I think. Was at the station for hours. I'm not in trouble. It was not about stealing cookies. But it's far from over. Sorry for being so vague. Stories number 52. Not sure what to do about my nephew. I was talking to my brother whose son is in college. He mentioned that for a psychology course a small group of them have chosen radicalization on the internet. It sounded interesting and I assumed it would be on the growing racism, fascism, and just general bigotry we have all witnessed. It wasn't any of that, and the rundown he gave me is that this group of 5 to 6 have embedded themselves in women's space to spew all sorts of nonsense. With dozens of accounts each to support and push people farther to the extremes. I think he only remembered Reddit as the main one because of pornography. I don't know how to convey to my nephew what I am feeling. I am angry and hurt, and I think all this experiment will do is create more insults. It leaves me wondering if who I am talking with is really a human or one of 100 accounts with the aim of radicalizing me so a paper can be written for a grade. Stories number 53. My neighbor asked me to make my Wi-Fi public for her birthday party guests. My neighbor Lisa knocked on my door on her birthday day. I thought she was inviting people or handing out cakes, but no. When I opened the door I greeted her with happy birthday. She said, "Thank you, but I want to ask you for something. So you know today is my birthday, and I have a bunch of visitors coming over. I was wondering if you would make your Wi-Fi public just for the day so they can use it." I just stared at her for a little while and replied, "Why would I do that?" She said, "Well, I ran out of all my data and didn't renew. I've already spent heaps on food and decorations, so I can't really afford to top it up right now." I told her, "I can't do that. My Wi-Fi is private for a reason." She rolls her eyes in earnest and says to me, "Wow, okay. I thought you'd be at least little neighborly. At least it's my special day, you should let me make it more classic. At least I would have declared free internet to all the guests. Then she left. Few minutes later she came back and asked if I would allow just her 5 special guests to connect to the Wi-Fi. Immediately she said that I just asked her to leave and badge my door. Stories number 54. My roommate's mom tried to unpack my stuff and rearrange my room like it was her house. So I just moved into a new place with a couple roommates, and one of them has this super intense mom. Like, she's one of those, I'm just helping, smiley face, types who actually steamrolls over boundaries. Anyway, I'm barely a day into moving my stuff in, literally have unopened boxes still, and she comes over to see the new place. 10 minutes in, she's in my room, opening boxes, moving my books, trying to hang up some weird floral curtain she brought because the window looked bare. I'm like, hey, thanks but I'll handle my room, and she hits me with, oh, don't worry, I've decorated plenty of homes, I know what I'm doing. Ma'am. This is a rented college house. You don't live here. I don't even know you. What makes you think you can touch my stuff? Roommate just laughed it off and said, yeah, she's like that. No, that's not quirky. That's entitled AF. Is this just helpful mom energy, or is she completely out of line? Would you have said something or just let it slide?